Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm sure it's hard because when you're a leader and you're bringing that change, it's almost like you're the person at the start of the marathon and then you've crossed the finish line, but people are still behind you. I'm sure that's always like, are they're gonna finish the marathon as well? But I'm
You,
sure they will.
I say this, right? Because we've left a lot of companies, we sold a lot of them. Fortunately, they've all worked. I put it this way. I have three children, and oh my God, I can't say they're in their 30s and late 20s. Okay. I expect them to do better than me, not financially. They should be a better father, should be a better husband. All right. You should learn from each group, right? You should be better educated, which they are. And at the end of the day, right, you should do more to give back than I did because you should just be a better person.
Mm.
So I expect the same thing here. When we leave this next generation, right, that there's that true team camaraderie again. They never go to the multiple divisions when they win by taking from each other versus competing out in the street. And I've really seen that culture change. When I got here, I'd say, my first thing, I go, you're victims. You got to be a warrior, not a victim. My parents were immigrants from Italy, you know. I guess what? I was never a victim in my life.
Mm.
You fight your way through everything. Be a warrior. If you can't do that, this is not a place for you.
Mm.
It just isn't. And I see that culture change. And that's when you know you're in good shape. And I just had an all-employee meeting and I said, don't you ever, and I say it all the time, let anyone take this company backwards. Even if I'm gone, stand up, scream, yell, never let it happen again. Never. You got to speak up.
Thank you for listening to The Interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including conversations with Google's CEO Sundar Pichai, as well as novelist Maggie O'Farrell and many others. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC.
Good morning, Manitoba. It is Friday, July 17th. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us. Let's say hello to our team this morning. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer, and Corey Funk is our show director. We are also joined by Heather Wells, who is here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, lottery sales are slipping, but Manitoba hopes smaller prizes may sway young adults who rarely, if ever, play. Recently, Lotto Max unveiled new prizes of $100,000 for every draw. Ephraim Leibovitz is a Toronto consultant who has worked with lottery companies. He says the high cost of living has shifted young people's lottery dreams away from extravagant fantasies to smaller, more realistic prizes. We'll hear more from him. And the Glenwood Neighborhood Association says Winnipeg's tree canopy is being threatened. It wants developers to have to ask permission before cutting down trees on properties they own. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, coming up today on the show, as you heard Heather say, we're going to hear more about lottery purchases here in Manitoba, and that the fact that new data suggests the opposite might be true. You think that the bigger prize, the more people would play the lottery. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case anymore. We'll get the details on that from an expert coming up. As well, table tennis players from across Canada are competing in a national championship this weekend in Winnipeg. We're going to hear from one of Manitoba's top players. And later on the show, Manitoba has confirmed that there is swimmer's itch at the Lac du Bonny Beach. Coming up, we're going to hear about the steps you can take to minimize your risk of getting the rash. And after 8 o'clock, international rugby is touching down in Winnipeg this weekend. We are going to speak to the lone Manitoban on the team and see how he's feeling about playing in front of a home crowd. That's definitely going to be a big deal. Also coming up on the show, U.S. President Donald Trump made a prime time address last night to talk about election integrity. Why now? And what was his, quote, shocking evidence? We'll find out. As well, we're going to take a closer look at Canada's wildfire response system and see what needs to change to meet the needs of a hotter, more intense summer.
On Q.
Hi, I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. Shania Twain, one of the most recognizable voices in country music. Before she was a global superstar, she was just a kid in Timmins, Ontario. She'll take you back to those early days and tell you how losing her parents early on changed the course of her life.
So she missed all of the success.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. U.S. President Donald Trump says he has declassified intelligence revealing major vulnerabilities in the American election system. In a primetime televised address, he made it clear he believes China is heavily to blame.
Think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China.
Trump made the claims during his White House address, but critics say he failed to prove there is any actual manipulation of the vote. The CBC's Katie Nicholson has the latest.
U.S. President Donald Trump has long clung to claims of election interference after he lost to Joe Biden in 2020. Last night, he claimed he had proof.
I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure.
After the 2020 election, numerous courts, audits, and investigations found no evidence of manipulated election results. And a national intelligence report concluded no foreign actor attempted to alter any aspect of the voting process, including registration, casting ballots, tabulation, and results reporting.
I heard no concrete evidence or even allegations that foreign actors actually changed the results of American elections.
Democratic Senator Chris Coons immediately panned the address.
There's only one person involved in this who we know for sure tried to meddle in the 2020 elections, and that's President Donald Trump.
Trump also renewed his plea to senators to push through a contentious voting reform act, the Save America Act, with voter ID rules that critics say would prevent millions of eligible voters from casting a ballot. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
Air raid sirens are blaring across the Persian Gulf this morning as a new wave of U.S. airstrikes triggers massive retaliatory fire from Iran. American airstrikes are targeting key bridges and electrical infrastructure and have collapsed a tower at a major Iranian port. Iran has responded by firing missiles at U.S. allies in the region. Those sirens heard across Kuwait City, where the military says it is actively intercepting incoming Iranian missiles and drones. Qatar and Bahrain also warned residents to take shelter as they came under heavy Iranian fire. Almost 850 wildfires are actively burning across Canada. In British Columbia, the entire town site of Boston Bar has been evacuated as twin out-of-control blazes close in. Meanwhile, over 175 fires are raging in Ontario, forcing several First Nations to flee. Heavy smoke from those northwestern blazes has drifted southeast, triggering severe weather quality alerts right across southern Ontario and Quebec. Choking smoke from the raging Canadian wildfires wafting across the border and triggering emergency health warnings in the United States. Millions of Americans are waking up to hazy yellow skies as the jet stream pushes the toxic plume straight through the eastern half of the continent. As residents from the Midwest to the Northeast are urged to stay indoors, we're joined by reporter Steve Futterman, who's in Times Square right now. Steve, you're down there. How bad is the air quality right now?
Well, John, I can see it. I can smell it. It's going to be an issue again today here in New York City. I'm in Times Square right now. And again, it's sort of a surrealistic image that we have of some of the skyscrapers with the haze surrounding it. It's going to be here again today. And it's affecting not just New York. We're talking about New York because it's the largest city in the U.S., but many other cities being impacted. Chicago, where skyscrapers were first created, they claim that's being impacted. In Detroit, lots of impact there. And some American lawmakers have actually sent a letter to Canadian officials blaming them for having poor wildfire management. They say there should be trimming of trees, thinning of forests. They say that some of this responsibility really lies with the way Canada has managed its forests.
Steve, you're actually there to cover this weekend's World Cup final. How is this heavy smoke impacting the teams and their preparations?
While FIFA's playing it down, obviously, we've not had any indication that this is going to have a major impact on the match itself. And the one good news is the forecast. The forecast calls for this heat dome, which has been basically trapping the smoke and forcing it closer to the surface. That heat dome is going to dissipate in the next 24 to 48 hours. So that will ease things for the game on Sunday. But obviously, when you have these fine-tuned athletes running for 90 minutes, maybe in 2 hours, depending if it goes into extra time, we don't know if any of the athletes on these teams have asthma conditions. An asthma condition could really complicate things. I know a number of years ago, David Beckham, the great English star, did come out and talk about his asthma conditions, but we don't know if any of the players might suffer from that. One thing I should say, this is nothing so far, thank goodness, like 2023, where they had to cancel flights coming into LaGuardia, where a couple Major League Baseball games were canceled. So it's bad, it's unhealthy, but it could be much worse, and we're hoping it won't get that way.
Steve Futterman joining us from New York. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, John.
A white hearse will tour Quebec's highways this morning. The morbid reminder is part of a stark new safety campaign launched just as the province enters its annual construction holiday that sees hundreds of thousands take to the roads. Last year's 2-week break was the deadliest in 10 years, ending with 38 fatalities. Kwabena Oduro has the story on the campaign and how one family's personal tragedy is being used to try to save lives.
She get hit by another car. The guy was drunk.
Marie-Ève Levesque says she lost her aunt when she was 15, who pulled over on the highway to assist another driver in need of help.
She was 25 years old. It was so sad when we were at the church with all these young people. So I'm really affected by this and how people drive on the road.
Levesque's story is one example why Quebec's Auto Insurance Board is stepping up its efforts to remind drivers about road safety. It is part of a new campaign that involves organizers driving around Quebec in a white hearse.
Because it's a symbol of what's at stake when you drive.
Simon Pierre Poulin is a spokesperson with the SAAQ, which provides public insurance to all Quebec drivers.
When you drive, you have your own life in your hand and the people surrounding you, so it's to catch attention, to grab attention. I think it works.
About 1 out of 3 Quebecers take their vacation during the province's construction holiday between mid-July and early August. 2025 was one of the worst years on record. Poulin says the construction holiday is particularly a bad time because there are simply more people on the road.
People take more risks at this time because they're lighthearted, because it's beautiful outside, because the sun almost never sets. These are the contexts in which people will speed and will take a little drink, and those behavior kill.
Quebec Provincial Police will also be stepping up its efforts on roads, waterways, and trails as a way to remind people about the importance of safety. Kwabena Oduro, CBC News, Montreal.
And finally, they wear full body suits, heavy masks, and claim to be visitors from another planet. But the breakout Canadian band Engin de Poitrins is actually from Saguenay, Quebec, and the mysterious duo is currently selling out shows across Canada and Europe with a completely unique sound. Magda Gabrisalessa has the story on the viral phenomenon.
The sound, the look, and the language is out of this world. Engin de Poitrins, the experimental rock duo out of Quebec, has taken the music scene by storm.
It's upbeat, it's creative.
The wacky time signatures, and yeah, it's just very bizarre.
The band went viral after its performance video was released by a Seattle radio station, drew a massive crowd at Montreal's Jazz Festival, the largest since Stevie Wonder played there in 2009, and has sold out shows across Canada, the US, and Europe. Musically, it's microtonal rock, hitting tones in between notes, many raving about the musical patterns too. Caroline Carbonneau is a guitarist with the Juno-winning rock band Nobro in Montreal.
I know that the guitar playing is playing with a loop pedal, and he's kind of building his melodies and chords throughout the songs. So there's a lot of repetitive notes and melodies.
Then you have the costumes covered in polka dots and masked up. Get this, publicly, their identities remain a mystery. Fans that saw them in Toronto this week say don't get it twisted. It's not some gimmick, it's the real deal.
It's very pure, it's very inviting, inclusive. In a world of everything that feels AI, it's nice to see some real talent and some uniqueness.
Even though that talent claims to be from out of this world. Magda Gebra-Salasa, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba, and happy Friday. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC News app. Thank you for joining us. Coming up on the show, we'll take a closer look at Canada's wildfire response system and what needs to change to meet the needs of hotter, more intense summers. Also, as you've been hearing in the news, U.S. President Donald Trump made a primetime address last night to talk about election integrity. Why now? And what was his, quote, shocking evidence? We'll find out. But first, the Great Outdoor Comedy Festival is back for another year at Assiniboine Park. We'll hear what's in store for the thousands of people expected to come out this weekend. But first, it's time for news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, hepatitis A is spreading so rapidly in Shamattawa First Nation that remote northern community has declared a state of emergency. The province has now made the hepatitis A vaccine available to everyone 6 months and older in Shamattawa. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says the community needs more healthcare workers to give those shots. More than 320,000 people have signed a petition started by a Winnipeg video game store. They want Sony to continue making physical copies of new PlayStation games. The company plans to stop producing those physical games starting in January of 2028. Sony says consumers generally prefer digital media, and the company is adapting. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Let's say hello and good morning to the rest of the team in Control Room 15. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, also keeping an eye on that forecast. Abby, we're starting now to smell that smoke.
Yes, if you look across the Environment Canada board, you'd see yellow alerts across the province. We're talking about air quality warnings spreading across the entire province this morning as we're noticing the smoke from the wildfire roll in. And this is impacting every corner. I'm talking about from the Red River Valley region all the way to the Interlake region. The only part of the south that I don't see that a lot, but the smoke is also present there, is the Dauphin area. But every other part of the south, we have that smoke alert there. And of course, the southeasterly winds pushing it towards the powerful influence are also blanketing most of the regions in the northern part of the province. Hence, we will be noticing this poor air quality to last all through tonight and even into tomorrow morning. So if you're spending time outside today, I'd advise you, if the smoke starts to impact you, please go inside. But for now, Winnipeg, we're looking at 20 degrees outside, local smoke presence, and of course that air quality warning active. We're headed to a sticky high of 27 today. The humidic is going to be close to 34, so it's really going to be muggy outside today, but take it easy. And that's what we see across most of the regions in the south.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. I'm joined now by show director Corey Funk. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, still lots of highway closures in western Manitoba, of course, around the Parkland region. But the most notable ones to keep an eye out for just in the last couple of days, just the Highway 83 just south of Roblin closed right up to Assisipi Ski Hill because of those high waters in the area. As well, Grand Valley Road or Highway 495 just northwest of Brandon there between Highway 1 and Highway 10 still closed as well. If you have any other updates for me, if you're here in the city, if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you want to tell me about it, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
The Great Outdoor Comedy Festival is taking over Assiniboine Park this weekend. The 3-day event will include headliners like Jim Gaffigan, Pete Davidson, Matt Rife, and Aziz Ansari. And for the first time ever, there will be a new addition to the show. CBC's Brittany Greenslade caught up with Chief Comedy Officer Mike Anderson to hear more about it.
Mike, tell me a little bit about what's happening here at Assiniboine Park.
And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival coming back to Winnipeg for the third time. And we're bringing joy, laughter, and happiness to the great folks of Winnipeg, but also all the people coming into this city to experience this event. We've got everything from the big headliners to the up-and-comers and also the local acts. So Friday evening, we've partnered with the Southern Chiefs Organization of Manitoba, and we're doing a comedy showcase, and it's great to see us being able to do some amazing Indigenous comedy and shining a spotlight on the amazing talents that they have. So, you know, it's a great chance for us to experience all types of laughter and jokes and humor.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I don't think you guys have done that before.
No, this is our first time, and we got approached by the Southern Chiefs Organization a couple weeks ago or over a month ago now, and they wanted to be a part of the festival. And it's like, okay, how do we do something spectacular? So we're doing a 15-minute showcase, and we think that this is going to be able to set the stage for us to do this all across the country next year. So really excited to see how that unfolds and the response from the audience.
Also had challenges every year. One year it could be wildfire smoke, another year super hot weather. So you guys just kind of have to learn to roll with the punches. How do you adapt and adjust to make sure that it's still everything goes off without a hitch?
Yeah, well, we work all year round on this. So the only thing we produce is the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. So we put a lot of time and effort into our emergency response plan, but also, you know, making sure people are comfortable, and we look at, you know, every possible situation. So we're a rain or shine event unless it's unsafe. So, you know, people ask, well, what happens if it rains? And, you know, when we've experienced it in other cities, it actually enhances the whole experience. I remember 2 years ago in Halifax, we had a tropical storm come through, and it was a torrential downpour, but nobody left. Everyone just enjoyed it because it was still safe, because there's no wind or lightning, which are two key ingredients for an event to shut down. But we didn't have that, so we all laughed and had this crazy experience together in the rain, and they're still talking about it 2 years later. So there's no rain in the forecast this weekend, so we're looking forward to having nice, sunny, spectacular thing. But if it does happen by chance, it still goes on, and it's still pretty spectacular.
Okay, there are still tickets left for the
Yes.
weekend. What do people need to know if they are coming to the venue?
Well, if they're planning to see Matt Rife, they should get on it now. There's only a few tickets left for that.
I did see that people can bring certain other items in with them.
Yeah, lawn chairs, smaller umbrellas if it's sunny out and you need the shade, or if we're expecting some rain, that's fine. We just ask people to put them down during the show. But if you don't bring it, we've got it here. So we've got chair rentals, we've got merchandise, we've got blankets, and some bug spray too. So we've got you covered.
That is Mike Anderson, Chief Comedy Officer of the Great Outdoor Comedy Festival, speaking with CBC's Brittany Greenslade. The festival runs until Sunday at Assiniboine Park.
You know the voices that tell the story of our province. Now you can take them anywhere. From the essential start to your day on information radio, to the conversations that define our lunch hour on Radio Noon, and the pulse of the city on Up to Speed, your local connection is always within reach. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Your favorite voices, your province, right in your pocket. Download the CBC News app today, your daily rhythm, live and local.
Still to come on the show, U.S. President Donald Trump made a primetime address last night to talk about election security. What are the implications for November's midterm elections? We'll have analysis coming up shortly here on Information Radio. But first, Elkhorn singer Kendra Kay continues to build her career in country music. She's performing at Club Regent Event Center in Winnipeg tonight. Here's Kendra Kay with Say It Again.
Break it down to basics. You
that you're sending. You want me, no way I can fight it. People talk, but they ain't saying nothing. Your lips ain't moving, but I'm hearing something. So say it again, say it again. Let me hear you say it again, say it again, say it again. Wish I had a dime for every single time you touch. Told me what you were thinking. The way that you're moving, you know what you're doing. Every part of you is speaking my language. People talk, but they ain't saying nothing. Your lips ain't moving, but I'm hearing something. So say it again, say it again. Let me hear you say it again, say it again, say it again. Say it with your kiss, say it with your eyes, say it with your fingertips. And if the only words you find are I love you, baby, that's alright. Say it again, say it again. Let me hear you say it again, any way you want. Just say it again, say it again. Say it again, say it again, say it again. Break it down to basics, you don't complicate it. You know what you want and I like it.
That was Elkhorn's own Kendra Kay with Say It Again. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, coming up next, last night, U.S. President Donald Trump made a primetime address to Americans discussing election integrity. And he once again revisited unsubstantiated claims about the vulnerabilities of the U.S. election. Here's some of what the president said.
Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard.
Trump described an election system vulnerable to foreign interference and intelligence cover-ups, among other things, but failed to provide specific evidence. For more on this story, we've reached Niambi Carter. She's an associate professor of public policy at the University of Maryland. She joins us from Washington, D.C. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what did Donald Trump say to the American people last night about the integrity of the U.S. electoral system?
He basically said our electoral system is being controlled potentially by foreign entities, and there's no reason for Americans to believe that their votes will count because of this interference.
Who do you think was the intended audience of that address?
I'm not exactly sure, to be quite frank, because his voters are firmly entrenched. They are going to go with him wherever he goes, even down, rabbit holes of conspiracies. I don't know if it was for the casual voter, because this is the exact kind of rhetoric that doesn't work on them. We saw this in Georgia in 2021 when there was a Senate runoff, and he said the same thing then, and it suppressed Republican voter turnout. So I'm not certain who this was for. I mean, the only other, I think, logical thing I can say is it may have been for his co-partisans in Congress to bring the SAVE Act to the floor.
Trump has made unsubstantiated claims for years that the U.S. election apparatus is rigged. What do the experts say about the system?
Well, experts, both, academicians and in the intelligence community, said that it doesn't exist. In fact, in some of the documents that he released last evening, The intelligence community said what we already know. Yes, China has a lot of information on American voters, but that information is publicly available. That any interference that occurred was about, trying to persuade voters, not necessarily change votes in the actual voting system. And there was nothing to substantiate the idea that someone or some foreign entity had hacked into the system and changed election outcomes. And I think it's, rich coming from a man who just won an election with this same allegedly rigged voting system.
Trump also claimed that newly declassified intelligence documents prove China interfered in the 2020 election. At this point, is there any new evidence that this could be true?
No, and there is evidence that China was interfering, but not in the ways that Donald Trump described. They talked about, the use of bots, using this information about voters to sort of devise online propaganda, those kinds of things. But they didn't go very far. And in fact, there was almost no mention of Russia, and Russia seemed to have been far more integral in our elections in 2020 than China. And so, there's nothing new here. There's no new information. There's no new evidence.
Primetime presidential addresses to the nation are relatively rare. How does the timing of this speech tie into the White House's push for new voter identification rules ahead of November's midterms?
I mean, I think he was trying to make the case that we need the SAVE Act, right? Which is about proving that you are a citizen before you cast a ballot, and certainly is going to make it more difficult for people to vote. But there's no provision of the SAVE Act that is going to address the kind of foreign interference that Donald Trump was alleging last night. So I think it was a real disconnect. You take up this really precious airtime as if this is an emergent issue. And it's in fact the same rehashed conspiracy theories for the last 6 years. And there's nothing in the SAVE Act that will address any of the things that Donald Trump said last night. So even if this was an attempt, right, to make the claim that we need to have this done before the midterms, there was no real meeting of the information provided with the goal of that piece of legislation.
What do you think the speech signals about a possible approach to the midterms?
I don't know, honestly, because I think this is actually not useful for Republicans. You build coattails about a shared future and a vision. You build coattails when you can tell people, this is what I've done. This is how I'm going to inspire you to show up in November for Republicans because we've done all these great and wonderful things. Yet he mentioned nothing about affordability, nothing about the economy, even the positive things that people have been saying about the economy, which is inflation is coming down. That's how you build coattails. You don't build or inspire people to show up out of fear. It's certainly when you tell them that the system is rigged, so even if they show up, it doesn't matter. That's not how you build an election, and that's certainly not how you help your party win in November.
How are Republicans reacting, given Senate Majority Leader John Thune's comments calling the 2020 election a, quote, closed issue?
I think the Republican leadership is rightly irritated, but they're never going to say that this was a lost opportunity, that this was a waste of time, that this was sour grapes from a man who is a winner. I've never heard someone talk about losing so much who's won. They're never going to say that, but John Thune and Mike Johnson have been very honest that they don't have the votes. And I think they're trying to save him from the embarrassment of putting forward a piece of legislation that they know is going to be essentially dead on arrival. But Donald Trump is trying to sort of browbeat them into this by using his bully pulpit in this way. I don't think it's going to be successful, and certainly don't think it's going to be successful by backward looking, especially because you currently occupy that office. Anything that happens to our elections is going to be on Donald Trump's watch. Even 2020, that was on Donald Trump's watch.
Nyambi, before we let you go here, I do want to ask, what do you think potential repercussions of this rhetoric on voters might have this November?
I think it's going to suppress those, like I said, those casual Republican voters, those independents who lean Republican. I think they will be turned off. I don't think that they're going to show up in the ways that he's hoping they will. And certainly it can create, I think, a lot of mistrust of friends and neighbors as you look at people like they're perhaps foreign agents or illegitimate in the electoral system. I mean, we saw some voter intimidation even in the last election cycle. So I think it's going to cause probably more chaos than it's going to help anyone be able to make decisions come November.
Niambi, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Niambi Carter is an associate professor of public policy at the University of Maryland. Well, we are heading to your CBC local news, but coming up after that, we're going to take a closer look at Canada's wildfire response system and discuss what needs to change to meet the needs of hotter, more intense summers. That conversation coming up just after your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's 20 degrees. Still a little bit of smoke in the air out there. We start the day with clouds. We'll see clearing through the day, and a high today of 27, the humidex 33. Thinking smaller. As young people buy fewer lottery tickets in this province, some of the biggest lottery games are thinking smaller prizes might be more enticing. Recently, Lotto Max unveiled new prizes of $100,000 for every draw. And billboards around Winnipeg promote winning a $50,000 scratch ticket means lots of money for groceries. Ross Otto is a psychology professor who has studied who buys lottery tickets.
It doesn't seem like an extravagant amount of money, right? But it'll get you kind of closer to that goal. So maybe in a sense, right, they're trying to make appeal to these kind of things that loom larger, right, in the minds of young people today compared to yesterday.
In the 2024-25 fiscal year, net income from lottery sales dropped 13%. The head of Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries has said changes are needed to make the lottery more appealing to young people. Hepatitis A is spreading so rapidly in Shamattawa First Nation that remote northern community has declared a state of emergency. The province has now made the hepatitis A vaccine available to everyone 6 months and older in Shamattawa. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says the community needs more healthcare workers to give those shots. She says people in Shamattawa are vulnerable to the spread of hepatitis A.
Overcrowding, housing shortages, and this, really stems to, the issue of transmission. When you're looking at preventable illnesses or disease such as hepatitis A.
The province says in this current outbreak, 867 Manitobans have contracted hepatitis A. The Glenwood Neighborhood Association says Winnipeg's tree canopy is being threatened. It wants developers to have to ask permission before cutting down trees on properties they own. Debbie Vokey speaks for the association.
Right now, they can come in, buy a property, clear cut all the trees, and then apply for the development. So the city has no say in what's happening with the trees. So we would like to change that.
Vokey's group has submitted recommendations to Winnipeg City Hall as councillors look at reworking the city's 20-year-old zoning bylaws. Trees were removed from a property near Vokey's home. Bulldog Demolition and Excavation, which did that removal, says it supports urban canopies but adds old trees get in the way of excavators and need to be removed before construction can begin. Unexpected frost, record rainfall, and recent heat waves have meant little reprieve for Manitoba farmers this year. But not all have the same access to crop insurance. Angie Cormier runs Cormier's Berry Patch in LaSalle. She says strawberries are only insured for hail damage and lost crops that are under a year old. This year's torrential rains are not included.
We have lots of beautiful berries. We also have berries that are starting to go bad just due to all of the moisture that we have had in the last couple of weeks. We're at the beginning of the season, so it's hard to say just how much that loss is.
Cormier says a fruit insurance program in the province has been in the works for 3 years. A Manitoba judge has released an inquest report into the death of Stuart Andrews. The 22-year-old was shot by police in Winnipeg 6 years ago. Among the 14 recommendations from Judge Anne Cron is having police explore how use of force training can change to better respond to calls involving Indigenous people and those experiencing a mental health crisis. Cron hopes the recommendations serve as small steps to rebuild the loss of trust resulting from the circumstances of Andrew's death. Well, it really was just a car rental. That is what Manitoba's election commissioner concluded about a 2023 Progressive Conservative campaign payment to a company owned by an intimacy coach. The PC say they spent $3,800 on a private car rental. The NDP complained, calling that payment suspicious. Commissioner Bill Bowes launched an investigation and concluded the PCs had rented an SUV from the intimacy coach's partner. Peter Smith is the PC president.
Of course, we're not going to pay for that kind of service for a campaign. I think that it again shows that our judgment was correct on this matter. We rented a vehicle. We didn't do anything different.
The NDP says the investigation still uncovered questionable invoicing. More than 320,000 people have signed a petition started by a Winnipeg video game store. They want Sony to continue making physical copies of the new PlayStation games. The company plans to stop producing physical games starting in January of 2028. Emma Vossen is an assistant professor of game studies at Brock University and an avid video game collector. She says more companies are moving away from physical media in favor of streaming models.
Really puts, control over their media into like the company's hands as opposed to the consumer's hands. And that also means that the consumer, instead of paying once for something, you're actually paying for something over and over and over and over again, or you're just paying for access to something that you don't own.
Sony says consumers generally prefer digital media, and the company is adapting. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. The time is 6:36. You're listening to Information Radio. I am joined by Abby Adiemi now for an update on the forecast. How's it looking out there?
Yeah, we still have smoke present across the province. We're waking up to that. A lot of people you step outside this morning and you would notice smoke. We woke up to some warnings, but it ended around the 6 o'clock at mark for the city. But we still have this smoke coming our way due to this winds really dragging the haze from northwest Ontario across much of the province today. So you will notice in some areas it's going to be reducing visibility and causing poor air quality, which will linger into tonight. Here in the Red River Valley region, yes, we're still tracking smoke at the airport, but the warning has ended. We're currently around 20 degrees. The forecast calls for mainly cloudy morning, just a bit of smoke still hanging in the air. That should clear as the winds comes in from the northwest later. But we will see a high push towards 27 degrees with a humidex around 33. Across the south from the Pembina Valley region, Morden and surrounding area, we're seeing cloudy skies there. 20 degrees we're seeing in that part of the province with local smoke. That part of the province still has the air quality warning in place. You're heading for a muggy high of 28. The humidex close to 35. In the Westman region, the warnings ended in that part of the province also. Brandon is seeing cloudy conditions at 18 degrees. The smoke in the area is going to be clearing as you get into the morning. You see your high towards 28 later in the day. Dauphin is sunny at 16, warming up to 28, and Gimli still has some smoke in the air also, hence the warning still present there. 19 degrees at this time, warming to 28, close to 35 if we factor in the humidex. Then we cross into the central part of the province. Sunny but smoky start across the region. The Power Flin Flon, we're looking at 16 degrees there. The humidex around 32. Norway House is misty. It sits at 17 degrees with local smoke aiming for 24. Then we go to Thompson. Thompson is seeing thunderstorms and light rain showers at 17 degrees at this time. We go towards Lynn Lake, mainly sunny at 15. Gillam is seeing thunderstorms also with light rain showers at 14 degrees. Tudula Lake is at 16 with smoke. And of course, around the Hudson Bay coast, Churchill and nearby areas, we're seeing light rain mixed with smoke there, 17 degrees, but that should clear this afternoon. Across board, hazy days, smoky skies, and active warnings in some areas. But for Winnipeg, we are at 20 right now.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Turning now to show director Corey Funk, taking a look at the commute today.
Yes, so far in the city, very quiet commute overall, but it's the highways where the issues are, of course, still lots of closed highways in western Manitoba in the Parkland region, particularly most recently in the last couple of days, Highway 83 south of Roblin running all the way to Assissippi Ski Hill. That is closed right now to the high water in the area, as well as still that highway 495 or Grand Valley Road, also just northwest of Brandon there, also still closed due to flooding. So keep that in mind. That's between Highway 1 and Highway 10, just northwest of Brandon. Other than that, though, if you do see something going on, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you want to give me an update on what you're seeing out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, next on the show, it is time to say hello to Crystalie Ramlakan. She is here with the Business Report. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chloe.
So let's start with trade. A top trade official for the U.S. says the Trump administration is not going to give Canada credit for its concessions. What else can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and this comes as official negotiations between Canada and Washington remain stalled. So U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says he's glad Canada dropped its digital services tax and rolled back its online streaming act, but he says Canada won't get credit for, quote, doing something bad and then undoing it. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney dropped the tax last June, hours before payments from tech giants would be due, and companies were going to have to pay tax on some of their revenues earned from Canadian users. And the effort seemed to steady the Canada-U.S. relationship briefly, but the U.S. froze talks again after Trump was angered by that Ontario-funded ad quoting former President Ronald Reagan, criticizing tariffs. And then in June, the federal government directed the CRTC to reconsider its decision to triple streamers' financial contributions to Canadian content. Now, the relationship between Canadian and U.S. trade officials has slowly thawed this year, and Greer says he's in weekly contact with his Canadian counterparts. However, while Canada and Mexico wanted to extend CUSMA, the U.S. is not renewing the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement on trade. And the agreement, though, does stay in place and under annual rolling reviews for up to a decade, at which point it will expire then if no extension agreement is negotiated. Now, the trade agreement has shielded Canada and Mexico from many of Trump's tariffs, but of course we know industries like steel, aluminum, automobiles, and cabinetry are still being slammed with separate duties. And Washington and Mexico have launched formal CUSMA negotiations, but no such talks have started with Canada. But, last month, Carney said a bad deal could have been signed a year ago, but he says Canada is not going to sign a bad deal.
Next, we're seeing more cuts in the Canadian media business. What details do you have on that?
Yes, so Chorus Entertainment, owner of the Global Television Network and multiple radio stations, says programming changes will result in dozens of job losses. The move comes as Chorus grapples with a persistent drop in advertising sales and rising debt. And the union Unifor says 43 jobs will be cut, most based in Western Canada. And that includes also 5 there in Winnipeg. Now, Chorus says while some production of its global news broadcasts for Alberta will be centralized, it will continue producing local news content in studios in the province. And the company said it will also add an undisclosed number of new roles to support its local news delivery. Now, last month, the Chorus CEO cited continued pressure on TV ad demand, and that's as the company reported double-digit declines in radio and television revenue. Chorus shares have plunged nearly 70% over the last year, reaching penny stock territory. And Chorus ended its latest quarter with more than $1 billion in debt. And much of that debt is linked to the company's 2016 purchase of Shaw Media.
Lastly, Crystalie, Truth Social is planning to launch a paid feed. What are the implications of this?
Well, it would grant banks and traders faster access to President Trump's posts on the social media platform. So Trump's media company is planning to charge for special high-speed access to Truth Social posts, including possibly his own, which would affect national security and the financial markets. So the move would allow Wall Street trading firms and other institutions to get news from Truth Social contributors in milliseconds so they could, make quick profits off moves in stocks, bonds, and interest rates. So called Truth PSI, it would be similar, of course, to paid access on other platforms. But, the difference here is that the most popular poster would be the president himself. And the company has not immediately responded to a request for comment about whether this is Trump profiting off him being in office.
All right. Thank you, Crystal Lee.
Okay, thanks, Chloe.
That was Crystal Lee Ramlikan with the business news. Well, it is Friday, so why not make some time for a bit of comedy? As comedian Angelica Skinura prepares for her wedding, she tells us about the discussion over the ring.
I'm at a very exciting time in my life. My boyfriend and I have recently started talking about getting engaged. We've been talking about my ring. He's like, yeah, babe, you're gonna be getting a family heirloom. Ugh. Heirloom's a strong word, is it not? Like, don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of good family heirlooms out there if you're Meghan Markle. Like, I would gladly accept a family heirloom from a family that's got good heirlooms. Sadly, I have a feeling like the only thing being passed down through my boyfriend's family is IBS and anxiety. But, I'm a positive, supportive girlfriend, so I tried to act all excited, but it came out all wrong. I was like, oh, yay, I love that we have to wait for your grandma to die so that we can get married. He was like, actually, you're going to be getting my grandfather's ring. That's new, huh? Grandfather's ring. I'm like, well, I hope your grandfather was Liberace, sweetheart. Because Mama wants a big fat rock. And I screamed that in his face. Mama wants a big fat rock. And then I laid this on him. Heirlooms are tomatoes. They're not rings. And then I immediately apologized for my primal rage. Because I don't want to be a bridezilla. I don't want to be that kind of girl, right? So I tried to reset, and I was gritting my teeth and holding my emotion back, and then I just ended up sounding like Keira Knightley. I was like, oh, darling, the ring is of no matter to me. Your love is what's most important.
That is Angelica Skinura, recorded at the 905 Comedy Festival in Oshawa in 2022. You can catch a full episode of Laugh Out Loud later today at 1:30, Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. or CBC on CBC Radio. You can also subscribe to the podcast.
Manitoba is a conversation that never stops. From your first coffee with information radio to the midday pulse of Radio Noon and the drive home with Up to Speed. Don't let your day get in the way of your favorite shows. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. Bring your community with you. Download the CBC News app and stay live with us.
When a wildfire spreads, whose job is it to respond? It's often a more complicated question than you think. We'll have that conversation coming up shortly here on Information Radio. But first, from Tatasquia Cree Nation, here's Sebastian Gaskin with Medicine.
My baby, she a dancer. Yeah, my baby, she a cancer. And she got me so enamored. Yeah, she got the golden standard. And she hold me down when I'm touching road. Give it to me dirty when I'm getting me straight when I'm acting so out of character when I'm about to throw. Man, she got me like. If you with it, we should kick it when I'm back in town. I'll be there in a minute, baby, hold it down. Cause you know I've been smoking and it's liquor brown. And I'm about to tell you how I feel right now. Cause lately I've been starving and I'm trying to eat. Sunday morning we be tangled in the sheets. Cause I've been on the road for like a couple weeks. And baby, we ain't nothing but some lovers. And she got me like. It's you and me forever, we don't need nobody else. You lift me when I'm lying, not believing in myself. You give me all your strength when I be down and needing help. It's you and me forever, baby, sickness and in health. And you, sometimes it gets complicated. Stuck in miscommunication. Sometimes we get frustrated. But I'm here for you.
That was Sebastian Gaskin with his song Medicine. The time is 6:51. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. The wildfire landscape across the country worsened dramatically this week. And now in Ontario, provincial officials are asking the federal government for support with evacuations across the remote north. Yesterday, as conditions intensified, Prime Minister Mark Carney praised the work of everyone helping to respond.
On behalf of all Canadians, everyone in this room, all Canadians across this country, I want to thank the courageous firefighters, the first responders, the Indigenous and local leaders who are working tirelessly to keep our people safe.
But some experts say Canada's response systems should be looked at with a more critical eye and scaled up to meet the demands of a changing climate. For more on this, we've reached Jason Thistlethwaite. He's an associate professor in the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jason, every year people argue that Canada needs a national emergency response agency. Why don't we have one?
Well, historically, we didn't need one. Canada's emergency management system was built on the assumption that most disasters would be local or provincial events. Provinces are also responsible for emergency management in Canada. It's been traditionally viewed as traditional responsibility. So federally, the focus has been on supporting provinces rather than maintaining its own operational disaster response capability.
Would a national model help in any way, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. We're fighting today's disasters with yesterday's approach. Canada's approach was built for isolated emergencies that the provinces could largely handle on your own. But what you're seeing increasingly, through the evidence of provincial appeals for federal support, is that our disasters are larger, longer, and increasingly happen across the country, placing increasing strain that provinces, really can't handle. Wildfires and disasters are a national problem, just not a provincial one. We need to be able to build up shared capabilities that no single province can efficiently provide. This involves things like investments in satellite detection, drones, predictive intelligence, surge capacity for additional water bombers, so we don't need to go through a process of requesting support and sort of needless bureaucracy waiting, while the wildfire gets out of control.
Whose job is it when disaster strikes? Which jurisdiction steps in first?
Well, it's primarily the local one. So it'll be a local government who then, a local community that would then request support from the province. The province would then make a determination on whether or not that support is justified. And if the province has those resources, it'll deploy them. If not, it'll then seek support from other provinces or the federal government.
What's the threshold for a province to ask for help from the federal government?
Usually this is determined by experts within. There's no clear defined threshold for this. It really does come down to the emergency. You may have a situation in a disaster in a larger community, a city with resources that's better able to handle it. Or you may have a situation where you have a disaster, and so that doesn't require assistance, but you may have a situation where you've got a disaster in a smaller community without the resources to handle it, and that would justify a request.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is facing criticism that his government hadn't properly budgeted for fire season. Are provinces taking enough responsibility for their own backyards, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a broken system. Our emergency management system is built around shared responsibility. Provinces lead the response while the federal government provides support when provincial capacity is exceeded. The challenge that we're seeing is that even if the province had allocated the same budget as they had last year, it is not enough. So we really do see a justification for more federal emergency management intervention.
We also often turn to the military for help with natural disaster response. I know we saw this in Manitoba last year, especially with evacuations from a lot of remote communities. What are your thoughts on that move?
The military plays an important role when civilian resources are overwhelmed, but it shouldn't become our long-term disaster management strategy. Armed forces personnel are an emergency backstop, not a substitute for investing in prevention, detection, and community resilience. As you might be aware, the Canadian Armed Forces has some other big geopolitical issues that it needs to be managing. And this is one of the big differentiators between Canada and a lot of other organizations and a lot of other countries. They will have a domestic civilian response corps that can be coordinated through a national emergency management organization that can be called upon instead of going through sort of this, complicated bureaucratic system of asking for approvals for support.
Jason, what would you change to improve our current response system?
Well, I do think we need more national leadership. A couple things. I think we need significant investments in things like satellite detection, drones, predictive intelligence, logistics, and surge teams that will reduce duplication and improve preparedness across the country. We've been dealing with smoke in a lot of the country, and we've been dealing with these impacts of wildfire now for the last 5 years. And what we're seeing is that given the scale of the forest in Canada, we simply can't train enough pilots. We simply can't build enough water bombers to be able to handle it. So we really need to be leaning into technology. And so when the fire happens, it's identified quickly through a satellite. We then deploy a system of drones to be able to go out there and monitor it, but also then put out the fire itself. We are working on that type of drone technology right now in the country. And then we also need significant investments in the event that we cannot stop the fire to help reduce its interaction with our community. So this means investments in programs like Fire Smart that help trim vegetation around property, building up community fire breaks, planting different vegetation. There's a whole list of things that you can do at a local or community level that can really help defend against the impacts of wildfire and flooding and natural disasters.
Jason, really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Jason Thistlethwaite is an associate professor in the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. It's time now to turn to CBC's Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, lottery sales are slipping, and Manitoba hopes smaller prizes will sway young adults who rarely play. Recently, Lotto Max unveiled new prizes of $100,000 for every draw. Ephraim Leibowitz is a Toronto consultant who's worked with lottery companies. He says the high cost of living has shifted young people's lottery dreams away from extravagant fantasies to smaller prizes. So we'll hear about that. As well, asparagus and strawberry farmers say not all producers are treated equally when it comes to crop insurance in Manitoba. Perennial crops are largely uninsured for extreme weather events in Manitoba. We'll hear about that, too, in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, stay with us here on Information Radio. Extreme heat and wildfire smoke is hitting parts of Manitoba today. And coming up, we're going to speak with a geriatrician on how to ensure the seniors in your life are staying safe under these conditions. For that conversation and more, stay with us here on Information Radio. World Report is next.
The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay.
I remember a wife, a son.
Christopher Nolan's adaptation of The Odyssey is out in theaters. We're going to talk about how people are connecting with it and how Homer's 3,000-year-old text is still the blueprint for the hero's journey. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcutt. U.S. President Donald Trump is pushing Congress to pass strict new voting laws after claiming China hacked millions of American voter files. In a primetime televised address last night, Trump accused Beijing of interfering in the 2020 election.
The People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files.
Trump says the alleged breach shows the American voting system is dangerously exposed, but Democrats are dismissing the claims as a political smokescreen. Democratic Senator Chris Coons.
I heard no concrete evidence or even allegations that foreign actors actually changed the results of American elections. This really amounted to a temper tantrum from our president that his own party won't pass the voter suppression bill that he has been pushing for them to take up.
Coons is pointing to the Save America Act, a Republican-backed bill that would force voters to present physical proof of citizenship to register. Opponents warn the strict new rules could disenfranchise millions of eligible American voters. Air raid sirens are blaring across the Persian Gulf this morning as a new wave of U.S. airstrikes triggers massive retaliatory fire from Iran. American airstrikes are targeting key bridges and electrical infrastructure and have collapsed a tower at a major Iranian port. Iran has responded by firing missiles at U.S. allies in the region. Those sirens heard across Kuwait City, where the military says it is actively intercepting incoming Iranian missiles and drones. Qatar and Bahrain also warned residents to take shelter as they came under Iranian fire. 893 wildfires are actively burning across Canada, and nearly 130 of them are completely out of control. Fire crews from Yukon, Alberta, and British Columbia are being deployed to Ontario to help battle the crisis. More than 175 fires are tearing through the province, forcing several remote First Nations to flee. And as the CBC's Sarah Law reports, community leaders say help is arriving far too late.
Canadians always look after each other.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says his government is providing helicopters and search and rescue aircraft to assist firefighting efforts. Ontario has formally requested federal assistance, including possibly deploying the Canadian Armed Forces. Despite criticism about the province's firefighting budget, Premier Doug Ford says it's all hands on deck.
But our government will continue to spare no expense to protect the people and the communities.
But for Nomigusasegagan, it's too little, too late. The entire First Nation north of Thunder Bay burned to the ground Monday. Chief Helen Pavela says her community members got out safely, but had to do it all on their own.
Nobody answered their cries.
The Assembly of First Nations passed an emergency resolution Thursday seeking federal support for Nomigusasegagan. Devin Wanacomic is Emergency Response Coordinator for White Sand First Nation. It's been affected by the same fire as Nomigusasegagan, which is more than 300,000 hectares large. Wanacomic says leaders need to work together to improve response times.
Emergencies are not the time for governments to debate
responsibility.
Locals in Thunder Bay are collecting donations of food, clothing, and toys for evacuees in town as the city continues to be stunned by yellow, smoky skies. Sarah Law, CBC News, Thunder Bay, Ontario.
On the West Coast, hundreds of people have been ordered to leave their homes, and more than 1,000 others are on evacuation alert. As Tanya Fletcher reports, crews are up against some of the toughest weather conditions of the summer.
For nearly 2 weeks, crews have been battling twin blazes in BC's Fraser Canyon, about 200 kilometers northeast of Vancouver. A few dozen properties were previously on evacuation order, but the flames are now burning dangerously close to Boston Bar. On Thursday, the entire town was ordered to evacuate, affecting roughly 200 homes and businesses.
It looked really bad. It looked really bad, and it's pretty scary. We've been packed.
Evacuee Fernando Balanta packed an emergency bag and watched in disbelief as the flames grew near.
Trees looking like they're Q-tips doused in gasoline just going up a light. An entire mountain just disappeared before our eyes within minutes.
The BC Wildfire Service expects conditions to remain volatile with lightning and little rain in the forecast. Meanwhile, closer to the coast near Whistler, flames and thick columns of smoke are threatening the village of Pemberton. More than 1,300 properties are on evacuation alert.
I mean, it's alarming, right, to have it right there.
Claire Hayes has lived in Pemberton for 15 years.
We spend a lot of time biking, and to know how dry the forest is right now is concerning.
That fire sparked up Wednesday, just 5 kilometers from Highway 99, the main route through the region. It's one of nearly a dozen new wildfires to ignite in BC within a 24-hour period. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
Heavy smoke from the Canadian wildfires is wafting across the border, plunging major American cities into severe air quality crises. Skies from the Midwest to the Northeast are surrounded in a thick, toxic haze.
We have a friend of mine now that's in urgent care because of the smoke.
My dog has a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and we actually canceled it because my ride is my aunt, and she's got asthma.
If you don't have to come outside for nothing, don't come out. If you need to come out, have a mask for sure. Don't use the excuse you don't have one. At least do a bandana.
Chicago and Detroit are currently tracking as the most polluted cities in the world, with hazardous health alerts active across 10 states. They wear full bodysuits, heavy masks, and claim to be visitors from another planet. But the breakout Canadian band Angine de Poitrine is from Saguenay, Quebec. The mysterious duo, currently selling out shows across Canada and Europe with a completely unique sound. Magda Gabrisalasa has the story on the viral phenomenon.
The sound, the look, and the language is out of this world. Angine de Poitrine, the experimental rock duo out of Quebec, has taken the music scene by storm.
It's upbeat, it's creative.
The wacky time signatures, and it's just very bizarre.
The band went viral after its performance video was released by a Seattle radio station, drew a massive crowd at Montreal's Jazz Festival, the largest since Stevie Wonder played there in 2009. And has sold out shows across Canada, the US, and Europe. Musically, it's microtonal rock, hitting tones in between notes, many raving about the musical patterns too. Caroline Carbonneau is a guitarist with the Juno-winning rock band Nobro in Montreal.
I know that the guitar playing is playing with a loop pedal, and he's kind of building his melodies and chords throughout the songs. So there's a lot of repetitive notes and melodies.
Then you have the costumes covered in polka dots and masked up. Get this, publicly, their identities remain a mystery. Fans that saw them in Toronto this week say don't get it twisted. It's not some gimmick, it's the real deal.
It's very pure, it's very inviting, inclusive.
In a world of everything that feels AI, it's nice to see some real talent and some uniqueness.
Even though that talent claims to be from out of this world. Magda Gabrisalasa, CBC News, Toronto.
And finally,
I'm going out tonight. I'm feeling all right. Gonna let it all hang out.
Shania Twain has sold out massive global stadiums throughout her career, but tonight she's checking off a legendary Toronto venue that eluded her before she became a superstar.
No inhibitions, make no conditions. Get
The Canadian country pop icon is playing an intimate, sold-out show at the Horseshoe Tavern. The historic room on Queen Street West has been a musical institution since 1947. It served as a famous launching pad for iconic Canadian acts like Blue Rodeo and Tragically Hip. Even the Rolling Stones played there. Twain told the Canadian press that back in her early days, she was never big or well-known enough to sing there. She said she and her bandmates could only dream of playing the legendary stage.
No clothes, no shoes in the south in the sun, running round and not tattoos.
The surprise gig is a massive contrast to her recent shows, including a 12-night run at London's Wembley Stadium. But the shoe holds fewer than 500 people. Tonight's performance comes ahead of her 7th studio album, Little Miss Twain, which is out next Friday. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba, and happy Friday. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Thank you for joining us. Well, coming up on the show, why Manitoba lotteries think they can get more people playing if the prizes are smaller. Also, table tennis players from across Canada are competing in a national championship this weekend in Winnipeg. We'll hear from one of Manitoba's top players. But first, Manitoba continues to deal with extreme weather conditions, and senior citizens could be impacted especially hard. Coming up, we'll hear from a geriatrician at Sinai Health System about the effects of heat and wildfire smoke on seniors. But first, it's time now for news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, asparagus and strawberry farmers say not all producers are being treated equally when it comes to crop insurance in this province. Perennial crops are largely uninsured for extreme weather events in Manitoba. We're going to hear from a strawberry grower coming up. As well, more than 320,000 people have signed a petition started by a Winnipeg video game store. They want Sony to continue making physical copies of new PlayStation games. That company plans to stop producing physical games and move to streaming in January of 2028. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Let's say hello and good morning to the entire team here on Information Radio this morning. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer, and Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, also has been keeping an eye on your forecast and, of course, that wildfire smoke that we're now kind of starting to feel here in Manitoba.
Yes, Chloe, just for like about 30 minutes or the last hour it ended for the city of Winnipeg, but again, maybe due to the presence at the airport, because of the smoke, Environment Canada has listed Winnipeg as under that air quality warning again this time, and this will remain in effect across most of the province. We're seeing it due to the wildfire smoke really coming in from the Ontario end. We are noticing it more in the Steinbach and the Selkirk end of the province this morning. Well, up north, we're talking about the Parr, Flin Flon, Thompson, all the way towards Churchill, and even sometimes we will see more smoke go on and off in this part of the province. For Winnipeg right now, we are hovering around 21 degrees. Air quality remains poor outside. We are warming up to a high of, let's just call it 27 today, but with the humidex factored in, it will be feeling close to 33, 34 as we notice some breezy conditions in the afternoon. But right now in Winnipeg, it is smoky at the airport. We're tracking 20 degrees there.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
All right, now saying hello to Corey Funk, our show director, also keeping an eye on the commute. How's it looking?
Quiet commute overall here in the city. Haven't heard of any major issues yet, but of course it's the highways in western Manitoba that are the biggest issue this morning. Still, of course, lots of closed highways in the Parkland. region because of flooding. Most notably, Highway 83 south of Roblin for the past day or so. That's been closed from Roblin right down to the Assisipi Ski Hill because of high water. As well, still Grand Valley Road or Highway 495, just northwest of Brandon there that runs from Highway 1 to Highway 10, also still closed because of flooding. If you do see anything else going on out there, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, do give me a call. Let me know what you're seeing out there. Even up north, I'm curious what smoke, what this means for visibility. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as you heard in that forecast, parts of Manitoba are continuing to experience hot and humid weather, and now air quality advisories due to wildfire smoke. As we've been hearing this week, seniors are especially vulnerable in this kind of weather. Dr. Samir Sinha is a geriatrician and clinician scientist at Sinai Health System and University Health Network in Toronto. He joins us this morning over Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
Can you remind us why seniors are especially vulnerable to extreme heat?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons that make older people particularly vulnerable. And in fact, this is why 90% of the deaths that have been occurring due to the extreme heat have actually been older adults and mostly in their own homes as well. But there's a number of reasons. Number one is that as we get older, aging naturally blunts our nerve receptors that signal temperature changes to the brain. So we might not perceive heat as easily or heat extremes as easily as younger people. And then older people tend to, as we age, we start having less efficient ways of cooling ourselves. So we need our bodies to circulate blood to our skin surface so that we can produce sweat, for example, that can actually help release sweat and excess heat. But we know that older people tend to be more dehydrated. They have more blunted thirst signals. So they not only do they have less fluid on board, they might actually have less of that thirst signal to remind them to stay hydrated. And then if you have underlying conditions, health conditions that can affect your circulatory, your respiratory, and other symptoms, and you also are taking medications that can blunt these responses, it just makes a vicious cycle that makes older people particularly vulnerable to the extremes of heat.
Can you expand on the medication aspect of that? Like what changes might that cause or what vulnerabilities might that cause if folks are experiencing extreme heat?
Yeah, so the first class of medications are what we call diuretics. So these are medications that an older person who has a heart condition might take to actually take off excess fluids. But that means that you're probably going to be more dehydrated than your usual colleagues, especially when it's hot outside. So that's why people who are on diuretics, or if you're taking things like antihistamines, what you use to fight off allergies, for example, or if you're on blood pressure medications, all these things can interfere with your body's natural temperature regulation and your fluid levels. And so that's why even people who have mental health issues, they're taking lithium. These sorts of things can actually, again, be affected by extreme heat and your ability to regulate your water levels as well.
What about the impact of heat on folks who might be living with cognitive disorders such as Alzheimer's or dementia?
Yeah, so you can imagine with all these other factors that can make older people particularly vulnerable, now you layer on something like dementia. And in that case, really what's happening is your brain is not communicating with your body effectively. So, for example, you might feel that you're thirsty. You might realize that it's hot outside. And so that will send your brain a signal, and you're going to respond by going to the tap and filling a glass up with water and drinking it. But again, if those connections are blunted or damaged because of Alzheimer's or dementia, then what happens is you might get that signal, but you might not be able to respond to that signal. So it just makes older people, particularly with cognitive issues, more vulnerable because they can't easily respond to the natural signals that the rest of us would respond to as well, even though if they're already blunted in older people. So that's why if you know of an older person, especially living with cognitive impairment, multiple chronic health issues, just in general, who's on their own right now, living in the heat, checking in, making sure they're staying hydrated, making sure they're staying cool, making sure that that they have the sources of support they need to stay cool. Really important, because remember, the majority of people who've been dying are older people, and usually not because they're out and about walking around. They're silently, being suffering with the heat in their own premises.
Dr. Sinha, I know that the wildfire smoke has been a large issue in Toronto and Ontario, specifically where you are. But here in Manitoba, we're now also starting to have a few warnings and feel the effects. What are the potential health risks of smoke on seniors in particular?
Yeah, so again, like smoke in general is not good for any of us. That's why we say don't smoke. But you imagine that with wildfire smoke in particular, there's a lot of stuff that's being burned. And so it's creating a lot of toxins like carbon monoxide and other, what we call carcinogenic debris. And so what happens is that you really have these really, really tiny particles. You don't see big pieces of fluff floating around generally. You just see this dark, thick air. And these microparticles, when you breathe them in, they get deep into your lungs, and that's what causes inflammation. So if you're an older person who's more likely to have respiratory issues or weakened lungs, this inflammation, can actually cause more respiratory distress. And if you don't have enough capacity to kind of deal with that stress, for example, it's why a lot of people who have asthma, COPD, common respiratory conditions in older people are landing in the emergency department as well. So what, again, we recommend is if the air quality isn't great outside, if you need to go out no more than 30 minutes, try and wear a mask if you can. And if you can just avoid going out, great. But again, if you're inside, make sure that you're trying to keep yourself cool with a fan, for example, or air conditioning if you're lucky to have it.
Dr. Sinha, really appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Chloe.
Dr. Samir Sinha is a geriatrician and clinician scientist at Sinai Health System and University Health Network in Toronto. And I just do want to remind folks, the yellow level air quality warning, has been kind of changing across the province. So the city of Winnipeg is now back in that yellow level warning for air quality due to wildfire smoke. Also included in this, Steinbach, Selkirk, Dugald, Morden, Bessette, Whiteshell, Sprague, and surrounding areas. So make sure that you are spending time indoors and taking care of yourself.
I'm Christopher Garreau, your local reporter for CBC Manitoba in Steinbach. You're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Well, Brandon musician Mitchell McCoons draws from his Ojibwe heritage in his work. He performs at the Manitoba Stampede in Morris this weekend, today and tomorrow. Here's Mitchell McCoons with Changing Man.
In 10 years' time, I thought I'd be in a picture frame and living memory. My lonely living, lying awake, wishing for time. A prayer at a bedside, tear in your eye. Why do the young always gotta die? The memory living on through the loving last. Well, I turn it all around. Yeah, you should see me now. I quit drinking up cheap whiskey and fighting, I get mad. Changing man, got a brand new life and a brand new plan. I'm a changing man. Maybe it's the way I was born and raised, had a real thick skull in my younger days. Never thought of much more than getting by. Well, I've turned on. You should see me now. I quit drinking that cheap whiskey changed man. Well, I've turned all around. Yeah, you should see me now. I quit drinking that cheap whiskey and fighting like it man. Buying all my happiness, getting high when I feel sad. Oh, it feels good to say that I'm coming of age. Got a brand new life and a brand new plan. I'm a changing man. Got a brand new life and a brand new plan. I'm a changing man.
Brandon's Mitchell McCoons with Changing Man. If you want to see that song performed live, you can head to the Manitoba Stampede in Morris this weekend. Well, you're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. The time is 7:25, which means we're turning to sports news with CBC's Scott Regehr. Good morning.
Happy Friday, Chloe.
Happy Friday indeed. After a memorable month of action, the FIFA World Cup will be awarded this weekend. What are you looking forward to most between Argentina and Spain?
Well, I think, Chloe, is seeing two nations compete with seemingly endless ties to one another, including between the coaches. Argentina's Lionel Scaloni learned his craft while going to an academy that was run by Spain's coach, Luis de la Fuente. Then there are the players, many on both sides, including Lionel Messi, are dual nationals who could have just as easily been playing for the opposition on Sunday. Messi moved to Spain when he was just 12 and, believe it or not, flew under the radar, meaning he didn't represent Argentina at any level until he was 17. And then there's the Lamine Yamal story. When Spain's superstar winger was just a baby, he was part of a photo shoot where Messi is shown bathing him. The shoot was part of a charity fundraising calendar the Barcelona Soccer Club was participating in. Joan Montfort, who took the photos, spoke to 60 Minutes about it.
Es como si ganaras la lotería, ¿no?
It's like winning the lottery. It's a 1 in 10 million chance. And I don't know, can you imagine if I told you right now that there's a photo of Michael Jordan giving a bath to LeBron James?
So, as Messi gets set to play likely his last international match on Sunday, he'll do it against the player deemed most likely to succeed him as the most exciting talent on earth, a player he almost baptized for the role.
Scott, I saw that photo online a couple weeks ago, and I didn't know if I could believe it or not because it just seemed so
in the
unlikely.
AI era, yeah, exactly.
But look at that. Yeah. It's real. All right. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, it wouldn't be a World Cup final without controversy off the pitch. What stands out for you in that regard?
Well, a World Cup final, Chloe, that could look a lot more like a Super Bowl. That includes Jennifer Hudson performing the Star-Spangled Banner. World Cup finals usually only involve the national anthems of the participating teams, but FIFA is breaking with tradition to honor its World Cup host this time around. Host in the singular sense, by the way. There'll be no Mexican or Canadian anthems. There'll be lots of other music, though. Shakira, Madonna, Canada's own Justin Bieber. All of this means a longer halftime show than usual, a half an hour long, so the Argentines and Spaniards best keep limber in their locker rooms. And there's another controversy, Chloe, looming that has little to do with a made-for-TV event. What role will forest fire smoke play? Last night, a National Women's Soccer League match was played before a record crowd in New York, and the smoke was so bad, there were 2 hydration breaks per half instead of 1. Dr. Vin Gupta of the American Lung Association says the same should happen on Sunday.
There's going to have to be different rules applied here than in a typical World Cup game because not only is it going to be terrible air quality, it's hot. That can cause an extreme amount of stress on the heart. We want to make sure that bodies are going to be accommodating to unusual circumstances. I would hope that FIFA is going to take into account environmental conditions and potentially build in more breaks.
So temperatures will be around 30 Celsius with extreme humidity in addition to the smoke. So it'll be interesting, Chloe, to see what FIFA decides. Maybe Donald Trump will step in. He will be sitting at the stadium with his close friend, FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Indeed, Trump will present the World Cup trophy to to the winning team.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
You betcha.
That is Scott Regehr with CBC Sports News. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Fries, and still to come on the show, we're going to reveal the contest winner of the Blueberry Jam contest. You're going to find out who is going to be headed to Northern Manitoba's largest music festival on a fully paid flight. We'll give you all the details there. As well, we were just talking about one of the more popular sports, soccer, but a niche sport is having its national championship this weekend in Winnipeg. Table tennis players from across Canada are here in our city this weekend. We're going to hear from one of Manitoba's top players coming up. And then as well on the show in the next half hour, it might be a bit counterintuitive. You'd think that the bigger the prize, the more people would play the lottery. But new data suggests the opposite may be true, especially when it comes to young people. We'll take a closer look at that coming up on the show. A reminder about air quality right now. Winnipeg is once again under a yellow level air quality warning. That also includes Steinbach, Selkirk, Dugald, Morden, Bessette, Whiteshell, Sprague, and surrounding areas. CBC's Abby Adiemi will have more details on that in your weather forecast. And that comes up just after your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 20 degrees, and you can smell that smoke in the air already. We're headed to a high today of 27, clearing early this afternoon. The humidex today, 33. Well, Winnipeg was out of the air quality alert for about an hour this morning, but Environment Canada has just reissued that alert about wildfire smoke creating air quality issues in Winnipeg, the Interlake, and eastern Manitoba. The yellow level warning has ended for western Manitoba. Air quality alerts are also in place in parts of Ontario and Quebec as Canada's wildfire crisis shows no signs of easing up. More than 800 fires are burning across the country. In northern Ontario, an evacuation order has just been issued for Fort Frances, and fires are also forcing people in several First Nations to flee their communities. Unexpected frost, record rainfall, and recent heat waves have meant little reprieve for Manitoba farmers this year, but not all have the same access to crop insurance. Angie Cormier runs Cormier's Berry Patch in LaSalle. She says strawberries are only insured for hail damage and lost crops that are under a year old. This year's torrential rains aren't included.
Some of those smaller.
We have lots of beautiful berries. We also have berries that are starting to go bad just due to all of the moisture that we have had in the last couple of weeks. We're at the beginning of the season, so it's hard to say just how much that loss is.
Cormier says a fruit insurance program in the province has been in the works for 3 years. Lottery sales are slipping, but Manitoba hopes smaller prizes will sway young adults who rarely, if ever, play. Recently, Lotto Max unveiled new prizes of $100,000 for every draw. Ephraim Liebowitz is a Toronto consultant who has worked with lottery companies. He says the high cost of living has shifted young people's lottery dreams away from extravagant fantasies to smaller prizes.
Some of those smaller, although still sizable and really fantastic amounts of money, are a little bit more within the realm of understanding of what that could mean for them, what they could do. They can contextualize that in a little bit of a tangible way versus the massive yacht.
In the 2024-25 fiscal year, net income from lottery sales dropped 13%. The head of Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries has said changes are needed to make the lottery more appealing to young people. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. A Winnipeg group wants the city to do more to protect the city's trees. Debbie Vokey at the Glenwood Neighborhood Association says as the city reworks zoning bylaws, it needs to consider the canopy.
I'm going to quote from the 11-page document that we sent in. This is what we suggested. Tree removal should be considered as development and thus require a permit.
Her group wants housing developers to have to ask permission before cutting down trees on properties they own. Bulldog Demolition and Excavation did the tree removal at a property near Vokey's home, and the company says while it supports urban canopies, housing constructions can't be done on a lot practically with old trees and root systems in the way of excavators. Another Manitoba First Nation has declared a state of emergency because of hepatitis. Shamattawa says hepatitis A is spreading rapidly in the remote community. The province has now made the hepatitis A vaccine available to everyone 6 months and older in Shamattawa. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says now they need more healthcare workers.
We need more people in the community, healthcare professionals, nurses, practitioners to support the vaccination clinics that is being requested right now.
Wilson says overcrowding makes people living in First Nations more vulnerable to hepatitis A. The province says this current outbreak, 867 Manitobans have contracted hepatitis A. Manitoba's Elections Commissioner has dismissed complaints against the Progressive Conservatives about their last campaign manager. Marnie Larkin volunteered her time as the PC's campaign manager for the 2023 provincial election. 2 anonymous complainants claimed her work should have counted as a contribution to the party. Commissioner Bill Bowles did not agree. He said individuals can volunteer their services to campaigns. PC President Peter Smith, an accountant by trade, is satisfied with that decision.
I do a whole bunch of work for the party and for campaigns, and it's not something that I have to declare as a contribution because I'm giving it on my own time.
Larkin did not respond to requests for comment. A Winnipeg video game store is leading a petition to keep discs spinning in PlayStation consoles. Earlier this month, Sony said it would stop making physical copies of new PlayStation games starting in 2028. More than 320,000 people have signed an online petition started by PNP Games in Winnipeg, calling on that company to reverse the decision. Emma Vossen is an assistant professor of game studies at Brock University in Ontario.
In general, we see a lot of platforms, not just in games, but when thinking about music and movies, they are trying to move consumers towards a model where we don't actually own things.
Vossen says physical video games could soon see a resurgence, like that of vinyl records or VHS tapes, as more companies shift to digital-only and streaming models. You can find more news on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined by show technician Abby Adiemi, also keeping an eye on that smoky forecast.
Yeah, it's a smoky Friday. We officially have a yellow level air quality warning active for most of northern Manitoba and a huge chunk of southern Manitoba, including Winnipeg, Steinberg, Selkirk, all the way towards the Pembina Valley region this morning, more than Morris, all the way towards the U.S. border. We're seeing heavy smoke from wildfires in the northwest Ontario region blowing right into our region today, causing that poor air quality and low visibility in some areas. Though the warning has ended in some areas around Port La Prairie, Brandon, Arbor, but you will still notice plenty of smoke hanging around us as the wind shifts. That air quality warning also remains poor into tonight and even tomorrow morning, so you will definitely be smelling some smoke and noticing the haze in the sky. So it's best, I would advise you, if it affects you, spend more time inside. Looking at current conditions in Winnipeg, it is smoky and 20 degrees at this time. Breezy northwest winds develops this afternoon with some clear conditions coming our way, and we'll see a humid high of 27 today. For the northern area, we're seeing 20 degrees at this time, warming close to 28. Brandon is sitting at 17 and sunny, warming up to 28. Dauphin, similar conditions. We're seeing sunny skies there, high of 28. Gimli has smoke in the air. We're looking at cloudy conditions at 19. Warming close to 28. Also, then we look at the Power Flin Flon, where we're seeing some sunny skies, 18 degrees in that part of the province, warming close to 27. Norway House is seeing mist, 17 at this time, a high of 24. There's a good chance of afternoon showers present in that part of the province. Then we go to Thompson, 17 and cloudy. We see a high of 24. There's a good chance of showers this morning. Lynn Lake is sunny at 16, warming to a high of 23. While for the Gillam area, light rain falling there, and of course we're tracking thunderstorms also at 14 degrees, a high of 20. Tudula Lake is misty at 16, a high of 24. And Churchill says light rain at 12 degrees, aiming for a high of 16. So it's more about the smoke across board today, plus humidity in the southern part of the province. Winnipeg, we are at 20, but it will be feeling close to 37 today.
Okay, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Joining me now in the studio is Corey Funk.
Yes, just got a call from Richard on the commuter line. He says Sherbrooke, just north of Ellis, is blocked right now completely by fire trucks. Not sure exactly what's going on there, but you can still turn down Ellis to detour. But as you can imagine, that's going to throw off some folks' commutes this morning. That's Sherbrooke, just north of Ellis, completely blocked. Apparently the fire trucks just showed up not too long ago. As for the highways, the biggest issues, of course, is flooded highways in western Manitoba. Most notably, Highway 83 running that runs south of Roblin there towards the Mississippi Ski Hill, closed right now due to high waters as well. Grand Valley Road, or Highway 495, just northwest of Brandon, also closed right now between Highway 1 and Highway 10 because of flooding as well. If you see anything else going on, though, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you.
The time is 7:40. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, the Canadian Table Tennis Championships are bouncing their way through Winnipeg this weekend. That is Matthew Lehman, 28-year-old table tennis pro from Winnipeg, getting ready for the Table Tennis Championship that kicks off later today. The Nationals are returning to our province after 10 years. Players from across Canada will be battling it out at Duckworth Centre at the University of Winnipeg. And Matthew won silver at the Pan American Championships back in 2023 and helped earn Canada a spot at the 2024 Olympics. He spoke with CBC's Sophia Peralta-Barone.
How are you feeling right now about going into this weekend?
Excited, also a bit nervous, but happy to have the home court advantage. It's not often that we have a big national tournament like this in Winnipeg, so excited to have some more fans cheering for me.
You've competed on international levels. You helped Canada come to the 2024 Olympics. How does your mindset change for something when it's now on the national level?
I guess I know a lot of the competitors. In an international tournament, you might not know them as well or you haven't played them as much. So a lot of the players, I've been at this for a long time, playing national tournaments, playing nationals. So a lot of the top players, we've played each other before, we know each other, we've done our research on each other. And so that is maybe an interesting aspect to see what kind of tactics come out and what happens when the match, comes down to it.
And what is something, maybe like a mantra or something you say to yourself that helps you get through competitions?
That's a good question. I've definitely been focused on having fun. There's a lot of stress and you're kind of out there on the table by yourself, so you have to enjoy it and not take it too seriously. Overall, just not thinking too much, just playing, trust the training that you've done, trust the work you've put in, and try to just, enjoy the opportunity to perform.
And along that string of having fun, when did you remember having fun for the first time when you were little, when you played the sport?
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day, my first table tennis nationals was 2007 in Edmonton. And I was just thinking the other day about when I walked into the gym the first time and I saw the 15 or 20 tables there coming from Winnipeg where there wasn't anything, at that time that I'd played so big of a tournament. And just seeing all the tables and that excitement I felt. So, it's nice to remember back and look at how far I've come in the last almost 20 years now.
And across those 20 years, what do you think is a pinch me moment for you?
I was in the finals of the Western Canadian Championships just a few weeks ago, and that is not something I ever thought that I would be at that level and be, competing to be one of the best players in Canada. So that was a bit of a recent pinch me moment of thinking of kind of those first tournaments I played a long time ago and going, how far I've come. I definitely never thought I was going to take it this seriously and keep playing for so long.
How old were you exactly when you started playing?
Around 7 or 8 years old. I just love ping pong. I told my parents that I wanted to play table tennis as a sport, and they're like, I don't think you can do that. Can you do that in Winnipeg? Luckily, they found a place for me to do that, and it just kind of went from there.
And you just used the word ping pong. What is your take on saying table tennis or ping pong? I want to know from one of the best players in Canada.
Overall, I'm fine with ping pong. Everyone always is like, expecting that I'd be insulted if they say ping pong. Generally, it's the same thing. We usually consider table tennis to be the Olympic sport and ping pong what you play in the basement. That's kind of the easiest distinction.
When you see the younger players out here, what's a piece of advice that you would share to them?
For the younger players, I would say, enjoy it. It's special as a kid to be in a national tournament that's, so big and so many players, and, enjoy the opportunity to meet different people, that kind of thing. And then also don't feel like you're in a rush. Like maybe you lose a match and it feels like it's everything right now, but, maybe you have another 20 years of this career in the sport. There's, you've got lots of time. So, take it one step at a time and enjoy the process.
And this weekend, what type of training have you done in preparation for this weekend specifically? What does that look like for people who don't know?
So, most of my training is on the table. So that's doing different exercise, whether it's footwork drills or more match scenarios where you're doing a specific serve and a specific receive or things like that. Working on my attack, working on defense, and then I'm also doing strength and conditioning, so working in the gym, getting my fitness level up, as it is a very physical sport when it's at this high level.
And I have a fun question. Did you watch Marty Supreme at all?
I have seen Marty Supreme, yes.
Do you think it brought a positive spotlight to the sport? What's your reaction to Marty Supreme?
I thought it was very cool to see table tennis shown in such a big, movie that with, famous actors and on the big screen. I thought that was really cool. I think Marty Supreme isn't the best role model. Maybe this weekend you can come see some better role models at the Nationals here. They had a lot of players, like real players, as background characters and as other table tennis players and scenes. So I know a few of them, and that was really cool to see some of my friends on the screen as well.
How would you describe the sort of table tennis scene in Manitoba right now?
The word that's coming to mind is multicultural. If you walk in the gym anywhere in Winnipeg, you're going to see people from around the world, together in that gym because of table tennis. Yeah, I've been able to meet so many people from different cultures, and it's definitely enriched my life in that way.
That was CBC Sophia Peralta-Barone speaking to table tennis player Matthew Lehman. He'll be competing at the Canadian Table Tennis Championships hosted right here in Winnipeg.
How do you listen to your favorite Manitoba shows when you're on the move? Get your daily dose of information radio, Radio Noon, and Up to Speed, live and on demand. Just open the CBC News app, tap the local drop-down, and hit play. It's the easiest way to keep our province at your fingertips. Download the CBC News app today.
Well, if you've been listening to Information Radio this week, you'll know that we've been running a contest to give away tickets to Blueberry Jam. That's Northern Manitoba's largest music festival. It's set against Flin Flon's beautiful boreal landscape, and it's free. It's a 3-day family-friendly gathering. It brings together local and visiting performers for continuous live music. It's all happening August 7th, 8th, and 9th, and of course, CBC is a proud sponsor. And we officially have a winner to announce for the round-trip flight from Winnipeg to Flin Flon and a hotel stay. So, congratulations to Heather Cram. Congratulations, Heather. Enjoy that festival. And thank you to everyone who took a crack at our public art trivia game. In case you're interested and you want to know the answer from yesterday, here's the clue. Again, it was between Main Street and Memorial is your piece of heaven when it comes to this contest. The answer was Heaven Between, located on the Broadway median at Edmonton Street. Thank you, everyone, for entering. Well, another festival happening right now is the Winnipeg Fringe Festival. It's on in full force, and tonight, Manitoba R&B artist Halves is headlining the Cube at Old Market Square. Here she is now with her song, Fantasy.
obsessed with being perfect. It's a fantasy. I can't let you pass the surface. So imagine me. I told you before, I'm unpredictable. I don't even know myself, and if I did, I'm not sure it would help. So imagine me, just how you thought. Find me in your fantasy. That's all you got. 'Cause I don't think this could be real. I do it all for the thrill. I'm chasing the high to get on. I told you I won't, but I will. So imagine, imagine, imagine me. So imagine, imagine, imagine me. Don't try to understand this. I can melt you, but I'm cold. I'm distracted, but I'm focused. Looking past it, but I'm holding on. I learned about you just for fun. I never settle, always run. I'm bored easily. I go overseas for the night just to feel something different. I'm not that innocent, I am the villain. But I'll be an angel sometimes when I feel it. Over analysis, think I can't help it. Somebody balance this, I'm feeling helpless. And a little passionate for you. And a little passionate for you. So imagine me, just how you thought. Find me in your fantasy. That's all you got. 'Cause I don't think this could be real. I do it all for the thrill. I'm chasing the high to get on. I told you I won't, but I will. So imagine, imagine, imagine me. So imagine, imagine, imagine me.
That is Manitoba R&B artist Halves with her song Fantasy. The time is 7:50. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Would a smaller prize get you to play the lottery more? That's the bet Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries and the Western Canada Lottery Corporation are making in a bid to get young people to buy a ticket. They're dealing with a big drop in revenue, money that goes directly back into the province's coffers. And consultants say cash-strapped young people are not swayed by the traditional promises of mansions, yachts, and millions of dollars. Ian Fraze is our legislative affairs reporter, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So just how big is this drop in revenue?
Well, revenue dropped by 13.4% in the 2024-2025 fiscal year. That's the last full year of which we have data for. So that means that in that year, 39 million was transferred to the province, down from 45 million. And that money gets used in all the places where the province spends money, from healthcare to education. And now that revenue drop, young people are a factor, but it's not exclusively young people. The head of MBLL, Liquor and Lotteries, Jerry Sewell, says there's other factors. That fiscal year, jackpots weren't as high as they usually are, and usually more higher the jackpots, the higher the sales. But he did told the legislative committee, and as we've heard on the news, that, we need to do something to make the lottery more appealing to young people.
So what do we know about who isn't playing the lottery?
Yeah, well, we know that from research from the Western Canada Lottery Corporation, and that's the organization that manages and operates lottery games in Western Canada, that for the demographic that is aged 35 and above, roughly half of them have bought a lottery ticket in the last 6 months. Drop that to the 18 to 35-year-old group, it's down to 42% that have bought a lottery ticket within the last 6 months. Now, I spoke to Shanika Spencer, a 25-year-old. She lives in the Daniel Mack neighborhood here in Winnipeg. She envisions lottery tickets as something for her parents, not for her, but yet she still wonders sometimes.
When I go to convenience stores or whatever, I don't really think to go pick up a lottery ticket. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should. It's there, I see people buying it, and then I'm like, never mind. I'm like, probably won't win anyways, and that's some doubt.
Now, of all the lottery types with young people, it's particularly the scratch tickets that are the least appealing, according to Sewell.
Do we know where young people are gambling?
Well, a McGill psychology professor, Ross Otto, I spoke with him, and he says young people have simply found different places to gamble. So they're still gambling, they're still risking their money, but they found other places to do it. They're going online, they're gambling on sports, they might be investing in cryptocurrency. The big thing, Chloe, with all those options, they're more convenient.
If you imagine, right, for young people, the allure, right, of doing something on your phone, right, versus having to walk, right, or even drive to a corner store, right, to go get a ticket it's pretty apparent, right? What someone would prefer. It's probably a bit more interesting.
He says getting those people to get into brick and mortar stores to buy lottery tickets, he thinks it's nearly impossible. But we should note you can buy lottery tickets online if you download the Lotto Spot app. And we should also mention some previous reporting from CBC Manitoba. Our colleague Justin Fiacconi has reported that Manitoba has its own online gambling site. It is Play Now, but lots of Manitobans, they're not using that. They're using some third-party unregulated site. And then the money that gets lost through there, that doesn't go to provincial coffers. It goes elsewhere.
Ian, you spoke to a consultant whose firm has advised the Western Canadian Lottery Corporation. What do they say about why young people aren't buying lottery tickets?
Yeah, so that's Ephraim Lebowitz out of Level 5 Strategy in Toronto. He says it's frankly inconvenient. There is a delayed gratification piece where you buy the lottery ticket and then you wait a day or two to get that result. And in our instant gratification world, especially among young people, that doesn't resonate so much. Also, the lottery experience is fairly isolated. You know, you can play online multiplayer games, and that shared experience really resonates more so with that younger group. And then there's also the economic picture. There's a high cost of living. Young people are feeling it, and that shifted their dream. So they're not thinking extravagantly of the life on the yacht. They're thinking about maybe something a little more practical.
You're living in a world where younger generations are finding ways to not so much always looking at the big outcome, the big jackpot, the big yacht. They're looking at things like paying the rent. Like, how am I going to afford to grab dinner? How am I going to afford my mortgage if they are fortunate enough to own a home?
So as he says, when that's the economic context that young people are living in, the big multi-million-dollar jackpot feels like a stretch.
What are some of the things that Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries and the Western Canada Lottery Corporation are doing to try and attract more young people to lotteries?
Smaller prizes. Now that might defy logic. You'd think, wouldn't you want the bigger prizes? And that's still happening too. Lotto Max, and I'll get to that in a moment. You know, they've done a relaunch. The top jackpot has gone from 80 million to 90 million. So they're still there. But there is a feeling, as we've talked about, that the smaller prizes are just something you can actually visualize. You know, no, it won't get you the mansion, but maybe it's an amazing down payment towards a home. You might have seen new billboards around Winnipeg. They're green, advertising a scratch ticket with the top prize of $50,000. And that ad says, imagine the grocery run, right? Sort of speaking directly to what young people, and arguably more than just young people as well, worried about the groceries. And then Lotto Max, again, they had that relaunch in April, and they've started instituting maximum guaranteed, or not, I shouldn't say maximum, multiple guaranteed $100,000 prizes. Now, research shows that young adults find that prize particularly more realistic and achievable. And Lotto Max is even turning to young people, or turning to social media to talk to young people directly. Here's an Instagram reel featuring local influencer Reese Kettler.
What would you do with an extra 100K? And it honestly got me thinking, because most of us spend so much time thinking about what's next, we don't really stop to think about what's possible. Maybe I'd take that month-long Euro trip with my family, or invest in a project I've been putting off for years. Maybe it's not about buying more things, but actually creating more freedom.
So will it work? It's a bet the lottery creators are making, and we'll see how the chips fall.
Very interesting, Ian. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
That is Ian Fraze, our legislative affairs reporter. You can read his full story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, and watch it tonight on the CBC Winnipeg News at 6. Well, coming up in the next hour on Information Radio. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, swimmer's itch has been detected at a Manitoba beach. Not sharks. Don't worry, no sharks, just swimmer's itch. Later in the program, we'll speak to a swimmer's itch expert about how to best avoid the parasite. It's time now for news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, Sherbrooke is closed right now between Ellis and Sargent as fire crews and police respond to a fire call. That call came in around 7:20 this morning. And Winnipeg once again is under an air quality warning because of wildfire smoke. Also included in the alert are the Interlake and eastern Manitoba. There are many fires burning, including in Ontario, and An evacuation order has just been issued this morning for Fort Frances. Fires are also forcing people in several First Nations to flee their communities. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, stay with us because international rugby is touching down in Winnipeg this weekend. We're going to speak to the lone Manitoban on the team and see how he's feeling about playing in front of a home crowd. Stay with us. World Report is next.
Hi, I'm Jill Deacon, sitting in for Tom Power. Shania Twain, one of the most recognizable voices in country music. Before she was a global superstar, she was just a kid in Timmins, Ontario. She'll take you back to those early days and tell you how losing her parents early on changed the course of her life.
So she missed all of the success.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Pia Chattopadhyay. Christopher Nolan's adaptation of The Odyssey is out in theaters today. We're going to talk about how people are connecting with it and how Homer's 3,000-year-old text is still the blueprint for the hero's journey. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. U.S. President Donald Trump says America's election system is vulnerable and he's accusing China of direct interference. Trump made the allegations during a primetime White House address last night, claiming declassified intelligence proves Beijing targeted the infrastructure. The CBC's Julia Wong joins us now from Washington. Julia, what did the president lay out in this address?
So Donald Trump spent the majority of his 25-minute speech detailing what he called vulnerabilities in the U.S. election system and pointed to declassified intelligence he says backs that up. Now, Trump has continued to make baseless claims the 2020 election, which he lost, was rigged. This despite lawsuits and audits that have upheld those results. In this primetime address, Trump accused China of accessing voter data in the 2020 election. And he's also accusing foreign governments of hacking into voting machines, but did not provide proof it led to votes being changed. Trump says the election system falls catastrophically short of being secure.
Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost.
Trump used the speech to make a pitch for Congress to pass the Save America Act. Now, this would require voters to show proof of citizenship and photo ID before voting in a federal election. But Senate Republicans have previously said they don't have the votes to pass it, and there has been criticism the measures would block eligible Americans from voting.
So, Julia, the president making this speech last night, what's the reaction been so far?
Well, a spokesperson for China's foreign ministry rejected Trump's claims, saying they're aimed at vilifying China and said it has never interfered in U.S. elections. Democrats, such as Senator Chris Coons, said he heard nothing new in the speech.
This really amounted to a temper tantrum from our president that his own party, which controls Congress, won't pass the voter suppression bill that he has been pushing for them to take up.
The speech comes just months before the November midterm elections, and Republicans are working hard to hang on to power in the House and the Senate.
The CBC's Julia Wong in Washington. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Wildfires are intensifying across Canada. In northern Ontario, fire crews are dealing with more than 176 active blazes as several First Nations face evacuations. On the west coast, hundreds of people have been ordered to leave their homes and more than 1,000 others are on evacuation alert. As Tanya Fletcher reports, crews are up against some of the toughest weather conditions of the summer.
For nearly 2 weeks, crews have been battling twin blazes in BC's Fraser Canyon, about 200 kilometers northeast of Vancouver. A few dozen properties were previously on evacuation order, but the flames are now burning dangerously close to Boston Bar. On Thursday, the entire town was ordered to evacuate, affecting roughly 200 homes and businesses.
It looked really bad. It looked really bad, and it's pretty scary. We've been packed.
Evacuee Fernando Balanta packed an emergency bag and watched in disbelief as the flames grew near.
Trees looking like they're Q-tips doused in gasoline just going up a light. An entire mountain just disappeared before our eyes within like minutes.
The BC Wildfire Service expects conditions to remain volatile with lightning and little rain in the forecast. Meanwhile, closer to the coast near Whistler, flames and thick columns of smoke are threatening the village of Pemberton. More than 1,300 properties are on evacuation alert.
I mean, it's alarming, right, to have it right there.
Claire Hayes has lived in Pemberton for 15 years.
We spend a lot of time biking, and to know how dry the forest is right now is concerning.
That fire sparked up Wednesday, just 5 kilometers from Highway 99, the main route through the region. It's one of nearly a dozen new wildfires to ignite in BC within a 24-hour period. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
Heavy smoke from the Canadian wildfires is wafting across the border, plunging major American cities into a severe air quality crisis. Skies from the Midwest to the Northeast are shrouded in a thick, toxic haze.
We have a friend of mine now that's in urgent care because of the smoke.
My dog has a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and we actually canceled it because my ride is my aunt, and she's got asthma.
If you don't have to come outside for nothing, don't come out. If you need to come out, have a mask for sure. Don't use the excuse you don't have one. At least do a bandana.
Chicago and Detroit are currently tracking as the most polluted cities in the world, with hazardous health alerts active across 10 states. The UK's Labour Party has a new leader. Andy Burnham spoke from central London today, shortly after the party made the official announcement.
Let's have the courage to fix the big things that politics has neglected, like social care, and have the conviction to go out there together and argue for our plans. And let's have the self-confidence to find common ground with other parties where we can. By seeking more consensus, we may just find the change we make is more lasting. We may find our political discourse in this country becomes that little bit less toxic, and we should be working to achieve that too.
Burnham presented a 5-point plan detailing how he intends to lead both his party and the country as Prime Minister. His priorities include making politics less toxic, empowering the grassroots, and reshaping party culture. Burnham is expected to officially take office on Monday when Keir Starmer delivers his formal resignation to King Charles. Burnham secured his seat in Parliament during a by-election last month. Rogers is laying off a number of its frontline customer support workers. The cutbacks come as frustrated clients complain about a spike in phone wait times for help or refunds. Anna Kamenchik has this Go Public investigation.
It's so frustrating.
Jeremy Dias tried calling Rogers last month to discuss his cell phone contract. Instead, he waited, only to get disconnected.
When I tried calling back after the call got dropped, I was informed that the queues were too long to accept the call.
Now, Go Public has learned Rogers is laying off some of those frontline workers who take your calls. A company spokesperson wouldn't confirm how many jobs it's cutting, saying only they represent a small percentage of frontline and corporate roles. And the company's investing in digital and self-serve options. A union organizer for United Steelworkers Local 1944, which represents thousands of telco workers across the country, says he too is getting calls. Corey Mandrick says employees have had to sign non-disclosure agreements and are afraid to speak out in case they lose severance pay. Bell and Telus also recently announced cuts, including customer service jobs. All bad news for customers, says Dias.
Just totally and utterly exhausted by every time we have to call a company and fight for a refund or a delay or a service.
He says the federal government needs to do more to keep telco jobs in Canada and fix dwindling customer service. Anna Komnenich, CBC News, Vancouver.
And finally, a white hearse will tour Quebec's highways this morning. The morbid reminder is part of a stark new safety campaign launched just as the province enters its annual construction holiday that sees hundreds of thousands take to the roads. Last year's 2-week break was the deadliest in 10 years, ending with 38 fatalities. Kubina Oduro has the story on the campaign and how one family's personal tragedy is being used to try to save lives.
She get
hit by another car. The guy was drunk.
Marie-Ève Levesque says she lost her aunt when she was 15, who pulled over on the highway to assist another driver in need of help.
She was 25 years old. It was so sad when we were at the church with all these young people. So I'm really affected by this and how people drive on the road.
Levesque's story is one example why Quebec's Auto Insurance Board is stepping up its efforts to remind drivers about road safety. It is part of a new campaign that involves organizers driving around Quebec in a white hearse.
Because it's a symbol of what's at stake when you drive.
Simon Pierre Poulin is a spokesperson with the SAAQ, which provides public insurance to all Quebec drivers.
When you drive, you have your own life in your hand and the people surrounding you, so it's to catch attention, to grab attention. I think it works.
About 1 out of 3 Quebecers take their vacation during the province's construction holiday between mid-July and early August. 2025 was one of the worst years on record. Poulin says the construction holiday is particularly a bad time because there are simply more people on the road.
People take more risks at this time because they're lighthearted, because it's beautiful outside, because the sun almost never sets. These are the contexts in which people will speed and will take a little drink, and those behavior kill.
Quebec Provincial Police will also be stepping up its efforts on roads, waterways, and trails as a way to remind people about the importance of safety. Cubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba, and happy Friday. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC News app. Thank you for joining us. Coming up on the show, for the first time in over 30 years, international rugby is back in Winnipeg. We're going to speak with a player to hear what his journey to Team Canada was like and how Winnipeg shaped it. Stay tuned for that conversation. But first, Manitoba has confirmed that there is, swimmer's itch at the Lac de Bonnie Beach. We will hear about the steps you can take to minimize your risk of getting the rash. It's time now for news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg once again is under that air quality warning because of wildfire smoke. Now, also included in the alert are the Interlake and eastern Manitoba. In northern Ontario, a bit of a clarification. An evacuation order has been issued for an area known as Fort Frances 14. That is not the town of Fort Frances. That's an area east of Atikokan. So we'll hear more about that. As well, Sherbrooke is closed between Ellis and Sargent as fire crews and police respond to a fire crawl at a vacant house. Crews are now wrapping up, and police expect traffic there to reopen in about 20 minutes. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, let's say hello and good morning to the rest of the Information Radio team. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer, and Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, also keeping an eye on those smoky skies today.
I can just tell you there's smoke everywhere today, and most of the regions warming close to 27 degrees. But up north, we're still seeing more smoke in that part of the province as well, blanketing all the way around at the Power Flin Flon towards Churchill this morning, with some rain also spotted there. Winnipeg, we are smoky and 20 right now.
All right, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Turning now to show director Corey Funk. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, the only issue here in the city, of course, is that issue on Sherbrooke, just north of Ellis's. Heather mentioned that is expected to be wrapped up. It should be unblocked by about 20 minutes or so. Other than that, though, just those highways, bunch of flooded highways in western Manitoba around the Parkland region. Check Manitoba 511 before you hit the road. If you hear anything else going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
If you've got a beach day planned in Lac de Bonnie this weekend, you might want to think twice before going for a dip. On Tuesday, the province of Manitoba confirmed that there is swimmer's itch at the Lac de Bonnie beach. Patrick Hannington is a professor at the University of Alberta School of Public Health. He's been researching swimmer's itch for many years and is one of the scientists behind swimmersitch.info. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show.
So just a basic definition here. What is swimmer's itch?
Yeah, it's I guess there's a couple ways to define it. One is that it's a nuisance condition that we see really commonly in the summertime. A lot of the times it is basically like getting a bunch of mosquito bites. That's sort of like the best analogy for it is a bunch of red little spots on your body after you go in the water. It's caused by a parasitic worm actually that is transmitted through migratory waterfowl and snails that live in most of the lakes and rivers in North America. And it's the part of the parasite that comes out of the snail that actually causes swimmer's itch. And it does that when it tries to get into people's skin to transmit to the next host, which would be that bird that it's trying to get into, but mistakens a swimmer instead of a bird.
What does it feel like? I don't know if you've had it before or to your knowledge, what does it feel like?
Yeah, it's I think a mosquito bite is the best way to describe it. But typically when people get swimmer's itch, they typically get a pretty bad case of it. So imagine, tens to hundreds of mosquito bites usually when people get a bad case of swimmer's itch. The rash can last for a few days up to a couple weeks. So it can be particularly bad with young children who will scratch it and are particularly uncomfortable with it. But yeah, that's the best way to think about it is a whole bunch of mosquito bites. It's very itchy, very uncomfortable.
So you have to be in the water to contract it. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be in the water to contract it. The parasite that causes swimmer's itch is released from snails typically early in the morning when the sun rises, and it'll typically sit near the surface of the water. So because of that, it tends to be something that moves with the wind onshore. So when there's an onshore wind at a recreational beach, we tend to see a lot more swimmer's itch cases, especially when the weather starts turning warm. And yeah, it's a very common condition. We see it throughout North America. It's not unusual, but it is this time of the year that we tend to see the most cases.
Is it dangerous at all?
No, it's really a nuisance. It's not dangerous in itself. When it can be complicating is when if you scratch the red bumps and scratch them to a point where they break open, you can get secondary infections, especially if you're scratching the itch while you're at a beach or something like that. So there's a lot of chance for bacteria to get into the open wound. But it's in itself not really a health risk.
Okay, so this is confirmed here at Lac du Bonnet Beach in Manitoba. But how concerned should Manitobans be about swimmer's itch being present at other beaches and lakes? Does this signify something about the water bodies in our province?
I don't think so. The snails and the birds that are actually part of the life cycle of the parasites that cause swimmer's itch. There's several species of parasite that can cause swimmer's itch. So if you're ever wandering around a lake in Manitoba and you look in the shore, you'll probably see some snails. Most of the species of snails that you would see along the shoreline are able to transmit at least one species of swimmer's itch causing parasite. So it's definitely not something that is unusual or surprising. We don't see a lot of reports from Manitoba on our website that you mentioned earlier, swimmersitch.info, but that could also just be because people don't know about it. We do see a lot of reports here in Alberta, where I am, and we see a lot of reports in Ontario and the northwestern United States. But it's not unusual to find it, and we actually kind of technically think that it's probably an indication of a healthy aquatic ecosystem. The parasites are sensitive to changes in water quality, so their presence, I think, indicates that the water is probably in a pretty healthy state. There's snails, there's birds, things like that using it.
Right.
But this time of the year is when we tend to see the most cases, partly because people start using the water. So when there's warm weather, sunny weather, people tend to go out and try to recreate a lot on the lakes. And that means they interact with the water a lot. And it also coincides with when we know that the parasite biologically is most likely to be coming out of the snails that are hosting it.
Is there any way to avoid it and still enjoy your day at the lake or the beach?
Yeah, there's a lot of anecdotal suggestions out there. We tend to find that the most useful solutions try to take advantage of some of the biology and ecology of the parasite. So I mentioned earlier that the parasite tends to like being at the surface of the water, and it comes out early in the morning. That's when it's most coming out of the snail. So those allow people to make some choices when they are going to recreate. So for example, if you have a beach that you're planning to go to, if you go early in the morning, there's a higher likelihood that the parasites might be coming out of the snails at that time. And if the beach that you're going to has a wind blowing onto the shore, that can mean that the parasites, which are sitting up at the surface of the water, they might be being moved to that beach. So those are a couple things to try to consider when you're going swimming. Another piece is if you're a strong swimmer, if you swim a bit further away from the shore where those parasites are going to congregate, it can help avoid where they're going to be the most prominent, which is a good way to make sure you're not going to get a really bad case of swimmer's itch. And then finally, the parasite, when it causes swimmer's itch, it's causing it because it's getting into your skin, and then your immune response is killing the parasite in your skin. And that's what causes this little red itchy bump that each of those bumps is basically one parasite being killed in your skin. And it's a gross way to think about it, but then what we can do is try to exploit that. And so we found that wearing something like a rash guard, particularly for young kids, is a great way to protect them from the sun and protect them from getting severe swimmer's itch, because that rash guard forms a barrier between the water and the parasites that are in the water and their skin.
Patrick, really good advice. Thank you. I'm sure a lot of Manitobans and listeners very much appreciate that as we head into the weekend here. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Patrick Hannington is a professor in the School of Public Health at the University of Alberta and one of the scientists behind swimmersitch.info. And Manitoba's government does ask if an individual contracts swimmer's itch or knows of a confirmed case that they report it via email at waterquality@gov.nb.ca or via telephone at 204-945-0002.
Driving round with you by my side makes me feel so good, makes me feel alive. Windows down, breeze blowing, don't know where we feel like going, but you're by my side, yeah, you're by my side.
For the first time in 33 years, international men's rugby is back in Winnipeg. Tomorrow, the senior men's rugby 15s team will take on Zimbabwe. And before that, Tonga and Portugal will take the pitch. And of course, all roads lead back to Winnipeg, as Team Canada does have a local on the team. Kyle Steeves is currently the only men's player from Manitoba in the senior Canadian system. He'll suit up to represent Canada and Manitoba. And Kyle joins us now over Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
So what feelings are you going through right now ahead of your match tomorrow?
Really excited, a bit nervous. Yeah, a lot of people I know are going to be there for sure. Like, I got probably close to 100 family, and my rugby club has sold probably 250 tickets. So it's going to be a lot of people, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Have you ever had the chance to play in front of a home crowd representing Team Canada?
The closest I've been is we played a game in Edmonton, and I had a couple of family come out for the game. But this will be definitely the home crowd for me. This is the big one.
Can you talk about your journey to Team Canada? How did that start? What role did Winnipeg play?
So I started playing rugby in 2014 while I was at St. Paul's High School. And then I just kind of fell in love with it, wanted to play as much as I possibly could. And so just playing provincial teams, all that stuff, and decided to move out to BC to kind of take a bigger swing at it. And then when I got out there, I started playing with the Canadian Academy and just some club teams out there as well. And then ended up getting my first cap with Team Canada in 2022 against Namibia. And then from there, I was signing my first professional contract. So I was playing in Dallas for 2 years and then Boston for a year. And then this year I was down in Australia playing in the Shoot Shield. And that brings us to today. And so it's just kind of been a whirlwind of a lot of travel and a lot of rugby, but it's been really cool.
Did you ever think as a high school kid while you were playing that this could lead you to literally travel around the world?
Not really, no. I didn't even know that professional rugby was an option or that it was a thing. And then when it started all kind of coming together, then everything kind of clicked and I realized this could be a really cool opportunity to play rugby.
Your position is tight head prop. For someone who isn't familiar with rugby like me, first of all, really cool name. Sounds like an important job, but can you describe what you do on the pitch?
Yeah, sure. Most important position on the field. Some would say it's in the scrum. So the scrum is when 8 of the forwards from either team, so the big guys on the field, get together and they basically push over the ball. And so you lock heads with the other team, you bind up with your team, and you have people behind you, and you basically just push as hard as you possibly can for contest over the ball when there's been a knock on or a reset in play. And then also in the lineouts, I'm the one who's lifting people, so I'm throwing people over my head.
Okay, I've seen this. It's so cool. It's very acrobatic.
It is very acrobatic. I think it's the closest we get to cheerleading in rugby. And no, it's cool. It's a lot of strategy involved in the line out.
Yeah.
So you're trying, because the ball has to get thrown straight down a channel. And so you have the opportunity to sort of manipulate their defense how you want. And then you can chuck your guy up in the air and try and get the ball back.
If folks haven't watched rugby, it's a lot more, I don't know, dangerous probably isn't the right word because you know how to do it safely. But when you look at it, it's very high contact. The scrum's intense. Have you ever been injured, or how do you prevent that?
I've had a couple of good injuries. Thankfully, not too many. I think I've only ever had 2 that have taken me out for more than a couple of games. But you just being physically ready is a big thing. So we spend a lot of time in the gym trying to make sure our bodies are tough and strong and ready to compete. And that helps a lot.
How have you seen the sport grow in Canada? Have you noticed more popularity?
Yeah, I think so. When I was playing in Winnipeg in high school, at least, I didn't notice that there were definitely opportunities to play rugby. And I think now that I've kind of gone and come back, and when I look at rugby in Manitoba, I see just so many more new faces and these young kids that want to come and play rugby, and it's awesome. So I think there are more opportunities coming around, which is really cool, especially for these Manitoba kids.
For tomorrow's game, I don't know whether you've taken on Zimbabwe before, but what are you kind of expecting for the match?
I've never played Zimbabwe, so I'm looking forward to the challenge. But we're expecting just a really quick game, a lot of big contacts. It's going to be a very physical game. And yeah, I think it's just going to be really exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Do you think having like hundreds of people there for you specifically, is that going to fuel you, or is that going to add to the nerves?
You know what? I think if you're nervous, it means that you care. And I think I'm ready to play. Like, we've done all the work now, so everything's just going to come together, and it's going to be a really good game. So I'm looking forward to it.
Kyle, really appreciate your time. Best of luck tomorrow. I'm sure the game's going to be fantastic, and enjoy it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
That is Kyle Steeves, a member of the Canadian Senior Men's Rugby 15s team. Team Canada, as you heard, will be playing Zimbabwe tomorrow at Princess Auto Stadium. Game time is 7 p.m.
You every minute, want you with me all the time. Love the way your kisses taste, and I can tell that you love mine. Ain't no reason we can't see if what we got is right tonight. Will it work? I don't know. Let's drive it down this country road. Oh, and let the sun set on it. Spend a little time drinking on it. Girl, we got all night if we want it. Get tangled up and figure out what this thing is all about. Let the sun set on it. shut down. Listen to the moon and stars. Talk to me, talk to you, till our hearts are talking too. Oh, and let the sun set on it. Spend a little time drinking on it. Girl, we got all night if we want it. Get tangled up and figure out what this thing is all about. Let the sun set on it. We ain't had a drop, but we're already buzzing. One little kiss feels more like a dozen. I think we both know we're on to something. Oh, and let the
We're listening to Sunset on It by David James. Let's take a moment to thank the team here at CBC Manitoba. To our associate producers, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, Sierra Sanders, G.D. Akuma, May McKillop, Marshall Hodgins, Jenica Sewell, Dylan Longhurst, Sophia Peralta-Barone, Emily Enns, and Kaylin Monkman. Our hosts, Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dowhouse, Faith Fundal, and Bruce Layden. To our news team, Joni Nicolou, Megan Ketchison, Aaron Broman, Riley Laychuk, Josh Crabb, and Heather Wells. Videographer, Travis Golby. And our YouTube producer, Darren Morash. Nellie Gonzalez is our show producer of the Current Affairs Unit, and Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio. I'm Chloe Friesen. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Glad to have you here. It's time for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is 21 in Winnipeg. A little bit of smoke in the air out there. We do see the sky clear this afternoon. A high today of 27. Humidex 33. The head of Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries wants to make the lottery more appealing to young people in this province, and so it's thinking smaller. Recently, Lotto Max unveiled new prizes of $100,000 for every draw. And billboards around Winnipeg promote winning a $50,000 scratch ticket means lots of money for groceries. Ross Otto is a psychology professor who has studied who buys lottery tickets.
It doesn't seem like an extravagant amount of money, right? But it'll get you kind of closer to that goal. So maybe in a sense, right, they're trying to make appeal to these kind of things that loom larger, right, in the minds of young people today compared to yesterday.
In the 2024-25 fiscal year, net income for lottery sales dropped 13%. Well, Winnipeg is once again under an air quality warning because of wildfire smoke. Also included in the alert are the Interlake and eastern Manitoba. In northern Ontario, an evacuation order has been issued for an area known as Fort Francis 14, not the town of Fort Francis, but people in several First Nations in northern Ontario have been forced to flee their communities. Asparagus and strawberry farmers say not all producers are treated equally when it comes to crop insurance. Perennial crops are largely uninsured for extreme weather events in this province. David Van Denez is Chief Product Officer at Manitoba Agriculture Services Corporation. He says a fruit insurance program in Manitoba is in the works, but it's encountered some challenges along the way.
We need a fair bit of historical data to know what is normal, how much do they normally grow in a given year, and then we would want to be able to compare that to how many did they grow in the year that they had a loss. Just the available historic and current year information is really tough.
Strawberries have limited insurance in Manitoba, but Van Denez says asparagus doesn't, largely because of its short growing season. Another Manitoba First Nation has declared a state of emergency because of hepatitis. Shamattawa says hepatitis A is spreading quickly in that remote northern community. The province has now made the hepatitis A vaccine available to everyone 6 months and older in Shamattawa. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says now they need more healthcare workers.
We need more people in the community, healthcare professionals, nurses, practitioners to support the vaccination clinics that is being requested right now.
Wilson says overcrowding makes people living in First Nations more vulnerable to hepatitis A. The province says in this current outbreak, 867 Manitobans have contracted hepatitis A. A Manitoba judge has released an inquest report into the death of Stuart Andrews. The 22-year-old was shot by police in Winnipeg 6 years ago. Among the 14 recommendations from Judge Anne Cron is having police explore the use of force training, how it can better respond to calls involving Indigenous people and those experiencing a mental health crisis. Cron hopes the recommendations serve as small steps to rebuild the loss of trust resulting from the circumstances of Andrew's death. A Winnipeg group wants this city to do more to protect its trees. Debbie Vokey at the Glenwood Neighborhood Association says as the city reworks zoning bylaws, it needs to consider the canopy.
I'm going to quote from the 11-page document that we sent in. This is what we suggested. Tree removal should be considered as development and thus require a permit.
Her group wants housing developers to have permission before cutting down trees on properties they own. Bulldog Demolition and Excavation did the tree removal at a property near Vokey's home. The company says while it supports urban canopies, housing construction cannot be done on a lot practically with old trees and root systems in the way of excavators. Manitoban's Elections Commissioner has dismissed complaints against the Progressive Conservatives about their last campaign manager. Marnie Larkin volunteered her time as the PC's campaign manager for the 2023 provincial election. 2 anonymous complainants claimed her work should have counted as a contribution to the party. Commissioner Bill Bowles did not agree. He says individuals can volunteer their services to campaigns. PC President Peter Smith, an accountant by trade, is satisfied with that decision.
I do a whole bunch of work for the party and for campaigns, and it's not something that I have to declare as a contribution because I'm giving it on my own time.
And Larkin did not respond to requests for comment. More than 320,000 people have signed a petition started by a Winnipeg video game store. They want Sony to continue making physical copies of new PlayStation games. The company plans to stop producing those physical games in January 2028. Emma Vossen is an assistant professor of game studies at Brock University. She says more companies are moving away from physical media in favor of streaming models.
Really puts, control over their media into like the company's hands as opposed to the consumer's hands. And that also means that the consumer, instead of paying once for something, you're actually paying for something over and over and over and over again, or you're just paying for access to something that you don't own.
Sony says consumers generally prefer digital media, and the company is adapting. You can find more news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Abby Adiemi is here for one last look at the forecast.
Yeah, we do have smoke and mixed skies across the province with highs warming to 28. Overall, we'll see the province get warm as the skies gradually improve, but the smoke is still the big concern today. Winnipeg, we're warming to 27. Today, it's going to feel like 35.
All right, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adiemi. Thanks to Darren Morash and Corey Funk as well. I'm Chloe Friesen filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Have an excellent weekend. Thanks for spending your morning with us. We'll be back next week. The Current is next.